Before I continue today's podcast, guys, I want you guys to check out this company, Altitude. These guys do premium grade shilajit, very high quality. And one very important thing I noticed with this company is the shilajit is tested in the UK in a lab. So it's UK lab tested. They have a barcode on the back, which is very important to check and scan all the details and make sure everything's genuine. The packaging is high quality. I take the shilajit myself, and one little touch I really like that I haven't seen before, I like this. This is a metal kind of gold color spoon. It really looks really nice. Looks really nice quality to take your shilajit with every day. Guys, they're giving a 10% discount if you type in the code KICKUP, capital letters KICKUP on their website. Go check it out. All the links and the description box below. Check it out. Welcome to the Kicking Up Dust Media YouTube channel, guys. Today I've got a very special guest. He's come all the way from Luton, the famous, or should I say infamous Luton. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. How you doing, bro? You good?
I'm good. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it.
Pleasure.
MashaAllah, Jazakallah khair. Introduce yourself to the camera. Let the viewers know who you are.
Okay, I'm Dowie, or Isa English. I answer to either, inshallah. Yeah, so that's my name.
Dowie or Dowie?
Dowie.
Dowie.
Yeah, I had a West Indian nurse when I was a midwife when I was a baby, and she couldn't pronounce my second name properly, so she called me Baby Dowie, and then that just could become my name.
That become your name?
Yeah.
Then?
Well, that's what they tell me. Obviously, I don't remember, but that's what everyone says. The school teachers, everyone.
MashaAllah. So, you're the first white reaver I've had on the platform.
Okay.
MashaAllah, may Allah bless you and guide us. And your story is very interesting. I know little parts of it.
Okay.
I know you're from Marsh Farm in Luton.
Yes, I am.
Things
Yeah.
like that.
Don't tell everyone, bro. It's not something you go bragging about.
Seriously?
No, not really, no.
Obviously cool, but I want to go back to the beginning before that, to how your journey led you to Islam.
Right, okay. Yeah.
So, I want to go back to the beginning, where you're from, your background, your parents.
Yes.
And how you grew up. Say the ages are between, up to 10 years old. How you grew up.
So I grew up on, like you mentioned, Marsh Farm. Actually, up until the age of 6, I grew up near the police station in Luton Town Centre. Right in town, in the middle of town. And then that house was getting demolished and rebuilt as new houses. So we got a house in Marsh Farm in Luton, one of the biggest estates at the top of Luton. So I grew up there. I mean, I didn't know any different. It was the way it was in the 1970s. Nothing happened in my house unless there was alcohol involved, because most white working class families, that was normal. Kind of like curry to Asian houses, everything happens. You have a curry, someone comes around, we used to have a drink. And so that was, I just grew up there. I mean, I didn't know any different. It was what we knew. I liked it. I mean, even when I was young, like a proper toddler, I mean, I'm talking 5, 6. I'd be upstairs having a sleep at night time. My dad would have a couple of friends around, we're having a drink. He'd call me from downstairs, make me drink a glass of whiskey, and send me back upstairs. That's how it was. I mean, child abuse nowadays, wouldn't it? But in them days, it was just how in the 1970s how it was.
And that's the 70s, right?
Yeah. Well, I was born in 1970. Actually, it's my birthday today, as we mentioned.
As you mentioned?
Yeah.
You want to say your age?
No. No, I'm 55. I don't mind.
MashaAllah. You look good for 55.
How long about it?
In the 70s, how was Luton in the 70s, like, growing up? Like, because obviously now it's very multicultural, as we know.
Yeah.
How was it back then in the 70s?
Well, the estate that I grew up on, Marsh Farm, at that point there wasn't many Asian people on it. It was either white people or black people. Scottish or Irish. So you had the overspill from London, and then you had the Glaswegians from Coatbridge, and then you had the Irish from Donegal. So they were the sort of communities that settled in where I was in Luton, that sort of estate, sort of communities, find out where the other people in the communities are. Now, when we moved into the house, we were the first people to move in, and next door, 3 days later, Mr. and Mrs. Khan moved in, okay, and with their 2 sons. Now, my dad was all, up in the air about that. We got these people living next door to us, everything else, and obviously the food smelled. We were the first people to live in the house. So first the house was built, we were the new people to live in it. So Mr. and Mrs. Khan moved in with their 2 sons, Tariq and Khalid, okay, and they was a couple of years older than me, I believe, and it was a little rocky in the beginning, and I'll tell you, after a very short amount of time, I swear, wallahi, they were the best neighbours we've ever had in our life. They still lived, well, their son still lives there.
MashaAllah.
Their mum and dad have since passed away, they since died, but we lived there 40 odd years together, and they were like family to us. And do you know what did it?
What?
They sent some curry round.
Seriously.
That's it. My dad was one. That was it. That was it. They sent a Mrs. Khan. That was it. That was it. All it took was a curry for my dad to go from. Because I remember she threw the washing over the fence once instead of on the washing line, and my dad went mad. You know what I mean? All you doing throwing your clothes around? This is England, sort of thing. And then I think it was a little while. It must have been Eid or something. And she sent some curry round for us to eat, and that was it. Become the bed. Yeah, that was it. All it took was a curry.
And they were one of the first Asian families on
in the area, yeah. There was a few dotted about, but they weren't like a congregation.
It was the first generation, basically.
Yes, exactly.
How do you think it was for them, like moving into an environment like that?
It probably more hostile for them. Yeah, because there wasn't. I can remember in the school, because we went to Lee Manor, you'd know the Asian kids because there weren't many. Like there was just 3 or 4 in a year, or 2 or 3 in a class, or something. Now I think it's changed quite a lot now. But yeah, it must have been tough for them, to be quite honest, growing up in that area.
Because even back then, the P word was just...
It was normal, yeah. It was normal. But they and again, because they don't drink in the local pub, or they don't integrate like the black community and other communities, you congregate in the local pub, don't you? It was called the Cotters or the Mokes. It was changed names a few times. But no, we got on really well. I mean, they're like family to me. The 2 sons. Yeah, they're like, now they are.
But that just goes to show, and it's that little interaction.
Yeah.
And it gives you a completely different view. Even your dad.
Mrs. Khan never learned English.
Most
whole life.
Even my mum.
Yeah.
She doesn't really speak English.
No.
Been here like 40 years or something.
She didn't really need to, I suppose. Her husband and son's done all the shopping and everything, and she was just...
Yes.
She knew my name.
Yeah.
She loved me. I used to go there and eat. I used to go next door and eat with them.
And you see when you were growing up and when you were young, your parents, like, what's their background? The working class?
Well, they're both white, English. My dad... my mum is fully English. I mean, I don't think there's any mixture in my mum. I think that, as far as I know, her family tree is pure Lutonian. My dad's a little bit more mixed up. His mum was Welsh and his dad was Welsh-Irish. And he was adopted. My dad was adopted by his auntie, hence my second name. Because my second name should have been Keneally, which is good. I can't spell that, so it's pretty good that they changed it.
Irish.
It's Irish, yeah. So, but my dad was born here. I mean, he's never lived. He's never seen it.
Some lineage goes back.
The lineage goes back. Yeah, I mean, his daddy didn't know and his mummy didn't know, but he was adopted by his auntie, who were Welsh. Hence the name.
And how were you growing up as a child, like secondary school days? Because that's when your character starts developing.
Yeah, I mean, then it was skinheads.
Okay.
A lot of skinheads. We didn't really have the racial side of it. Because there's a lot of black kids and the black kids used to dress like skinheads, like it was called Rudy Boy back then, I think, wasn't it? Like the madness.
That's before my time.
Yeah, before your time. So this is with the Crombie and the and the sort of skinhead type fashion, but it wasn't the racism involved. There was racists, but they weren't. It wasn't my circles, and where I grew up, there was way too many black people for there to be racists take a hold. It's only when we went to Dunstable that we'd get
the real
racists. Yeah, we weren't really
the Marsh Farm started to become more multiculturalized, especially with the black community.
Yeah,
and stuff.
I mean, most of my friends were black when I was at school, simply because they would put, and this is what I mean, they put there was something called remedial class back then. If you weren't that good at English or maths, they'd put you into a slow learning class. I don't know whether you probably don't have it.
I've heard of it now.
Yeah, but anyway, there was a short straw in the staff room who got to take that class for that day, and it was only ever full of black kids or white kids that come from deprived like broken homes or deprived backgrounds, something like that. So we just used to go to the gym. There was a sports complex right next to the school, so we used to go to the gym and train. So all of my friends, well, that was my social circle because we used to train in the gym together. I mean, they were black, and they hit puberty a lot before I did. You know what I mean? So I was just trying to keep up with them in the gym. But Calvin and all of them, the friends that I grew up with that. So I didn't really have any racist
friends and stuff.
I didn't know it. I didn't know racism. Like from me, obviously there was racism, but it didn't affect me.
It didn't affect you because the area you grew up in. That's why.
Yeah, I'm sure it was that. Yeah, because when we went to Dunstable, we got chased out.
Yeah,
we used to go to the underage discos and stuff like that.
Like when I was growing up, see Luton football club. So we were Reading.
Right.
So the local football club was in our neighbourhood where we grew up.
Okay.
So you would have the hooligan type of element. So Millwall obviously was the worst. So you get a lot of racist abuse you're going to get from them. Oxford was one of them. Luton was also one of them. This was more in the 90s and stuff. The hooligan thing really was kicking off and stuff like that. So so obviously Luton is different areas, and Dunstable was just outside, right?
Well, it's attached to Luton, but it's outside. Yeah, but it's not.
Yeah, exactly. So there you're gonna find a bit more hostile.
It was mostly white people.
Exactly,
there.
because you're not gonna. There's no intermixing and stuff like that. So as you're growing up, how were you as a kid? Were you naughty? How's your behavior?
I wasn't a troublesome kid. I wasn't a troublesome teenager. I wasn't one of these kids that got into trouble at school. I wasn't got into trouble with the police or anything like that. I was quite a happy-go-lucky type of kid. I was not a troublemaker. I wasn't, obviously the way I was brought up, looking back on it now, was not how you would raise a kid now. We didn't have much, but the parenting skills were really poor back then. They didn't have to raise.
I'm sure you guys.
I didn't actually get hit.
Oh, you never got hit?
No. It wasn't the hits. It was the shouting and like I said, with the drink when you're young, and the whole way they raised kids back in the 70s in my family. It wasn't how we would parent kids now. It's very much different to how we do it now. But I wasn't in trouble. I was okay at school. I mean, I wasn't that in top sets or anything. Like I said, I was in remedial sets, but I wasn't a troublemaker. No, not at all. No.
And at what age was your first exposure to Islam? Like, I understand they were Muslims, but sometimes people don't make. Back then, they didn't make the connection between Islam and Pakistanis, basically.
No, I knew Pakistanis were Muslim, but I didn't know anything about Muslims.
Okay.
I mean, Mr. and Mrs. Khan never spoke about it. Their sons were, for what I could see, just like us. In fact, one of them called himself Christopher instead of Tariq.
To integrate.
Yeah, I suppose he would have been. Yeah. So for me, I didn't know anything. Only what we learned in religious studies at school, and that was taught generically. Muslims believe this, Jews believe that, Hindus believe something else, but no one ever took much notice. In fact, I quite like religious studies, but I didn't know much.
Okay.
I wasn't aware. I didn't actually become aware of, because there wasn't that many in my neighbourhood. Traditionally speaking, Marsh Farm never really got on with Berry Park, which is where most of the Pakistani and Muslim kids, youth would be, community would be actually. We never really got on. It was
about a mile and a half, 2 miles?
About three. About 2 to 3 miles away. But it might as well have been 2 or 3 light years.
Yeah, of course.
Back then.
Because especially you were from the 70s or some of the 80s, life was outside, and you spent time in your neighbourhood. That was your life.
Yeah, you just go out to play, or just mum would kick me out.
Berry Park must have seemed like a different country.
Yeah, you'd have to catch a bus, and we didn't do that. I don't think there was any trouble back then when we were that young. The trouble didn't come into it till we left school.
Okay.
And then it would be a case of, one thing I had to rate about the Pakistanis in Luton back then is they had a firm.
Yeah.
And they backed each other up, and they were quick at it too. It was called the BPYP.
BPYP.
Yeah, the Berry Park Youth Posse.
Oh, wow.
They were like the grandfathers, literally grandfathers of the ones that are there now.
Foundation.
Yeah, and they could actually, stand up.
Correct.
To be fair, yeah, they could. Yeah, there was some of them in that lot that could fight, and they started because of the racism. Since when I become Muslim, I got to know some of them. Back from then, obviously the journey in Islam, they've calmed down, they've got on the deen. I'm now a Muslim so many years afterwards. So we saw, but obviously the racism was affecting them a lot, so they had to band together. They had to cling together to sort of defend themselves.
Of course, yeah.
And then what happens is the bullied become the bullies eventually.
What happens is you have you're getting oppressed by somebody, and once you defeat the oppressor,
you become the oppressor
because you're still powerful now.
Yeah.
So you start turning on each other, and that's what really.
Well, they turned on everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, the BPYP and the ones that come after them probably become quite violent towards everyone else.
Exactly, When the drugs come into it, and
it wasn't in the beginning. Obviously, there was none of that. It was kind of just had to stick together. He was
100%.
And then it did become that, and that give birth to the EDL and everything else. That was one of the catalysts to that.
So I was saying that this is one of the insincere things what I see people like Tommy Robinson saying. Because he was like, why does that community stick together? Why are they like that?
Well, they had to.
And I was like, exactly the reason why they
had to.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So as you probably know, they had a thing back in the day called Paki bashing.
Yes.
It's a thing you could read about it online.
I'm glad you said that, not me, bruv. Yeah, I can't say that. Yeah.
So it's like exactly the reason why they stuck together. Do you understand?
Yeah, they had to.
Because when our fathers came over in the 50s and 60s, they tolerated it. They tolerated it, and the real kind of violence started. I think it was in the 60s and 70s in the NF type of movement.
The Teddy Boys first, wasn't it? And then,
literally, if people get into a van, jumping out. The guy's coming home from a factory after the power shift, and he gets battered, and you don't even know why he got battered.
Yeah. So
they know the reason. He knows the reason why, but because of his insincerity, he's trying to dupe the crowd, isn't it? He's trying to paint a picture. but it's such a dishonest picture. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's
I mean, I think, well, you were talking about Tommy Robinson.
yeah.
I think his generation, at that point there, it was more the young sort of Pakistani gangs in Luton. They had a bit of dominance. You know, they had a little bit of
Definitely, yeah.
they had a bit of clout. They had a bit of authority, and they were, some of them were bullies with it. And there's obviously this clash with because Tommy Robinson was in the football firm, wasn't he? He was in the mix.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that there was a natural clash with that.
100%. Yeah.
So it was always going to be. I think there was a couple of gangs in Luton, the Gambinos and the Yellows. I'm not sure. I didn't. Like I said, I know some of them now. They're older, but at that time I wasn't active with them. I didn't know anything about it. It was a different generation to me. I was out of that. I think I would have been a Muslim at that point. So, but that's where they clashed. So I think for the way Tommy Robinson looked at it, these are no longer defending themselves. These are purely on the offense.
Offensive,
yeah. I mean, like
it's changed now.
They're out there, you know, doing their drugs, doing their this, doing their that. They're just like they're like everyone else at this point.
Exactly. Yeah. So before we kind of move on to that, I want to get into your story. When was the first time you became aware of like Islam, like this religion?
You know, Mum and Dad took me on holiday to Morocco when I was in a very, like, maybe 12, 13 and 14, like a couple of times I went to Agadir in Morocco, and I would hear the adhan. I know it was the Muslims out there, but I didn't know anything about Islam, but I loved it. You know, like just the sound of it was intriguing and it was soothing, but I didn't quite know why or anything else about it. So I think, thinking back, that initially was something that kind of affected me internally. But I didn't obviously I wasn't a Muslim at that point. I didn't become Muslim until I was 26. What happened is that I had my first son with my then girlfriend at the time, and there was, on Marsh there's like a mound. It wouldn't be a hill, it would be like a mound. And I used to go there as a non-Muslim and pray sometimes. So how I would pray is I would point up to the sky and talk, because although you would loosely say I was a Christian, I wasn't actually a Christian. I wouldn't go to church unless someone was getting buried or married. Other than that,
you wouldn't go?
I wouldn't know, I wouldn't know much about it. But I used to go and pray. So I remember one particular point, I said, look, I've had a child. I'm going to come and find you. You don't have to look for me. I'm going to come and find you. Wherever you are, I will find you. And I made this, what now you'd call a Dawah, but then I just thought I was talking to God. There was no Jesus in that mix. There was no anyone else. It was just me and God. I always knew that. I don't know how I knew that. I just knew that. It was not
Fitra.
like Fitra. Yeah, it wasn't like someone told me to say it like that. That's just how it was. And I didn't make this common knowledge. So then I would go around. I would talk to people. One of my best friends from school was Jonathan. He was a pastor of a church. One a happy clappy sort of evangelist church. So when obviously I went and spoke to him, I was the only guy that used to seek out Jehovah's Witnesses. You know what I mean? I'd go looking for them. I spoke to some Hindu friends that I knew. I spoke to some Muslim guys that I knew back then. I think they were Bangladeshi and some Pakistani. But you understand, the Pakistani brothers that I knew then were not practicing. They were not on the level where they could talk to you about deen.
But why were you asking these questions too?
Because I wanted to find out. Because I was looking for God. So I said, you're not going to have to find me, I'm going to find you. So I'm going to find God. Okay? Now, in that journey of finding God, I would speak to anyone that I thought would be able to tell me about God. I mean, so it's like the Hindus. I didn't speak to Jewish people simply because I didn't know any. I just didn't know any. You know, they didn't live in Marsh Farm. They didn't live on a council estate. Okay? So otherwise I would have spoke to them. Okay? And I'd go around and speak. And, you know, the Hindus, I didn't make much sense. The Christians didn't make much sense. So I was just continuously searching. I'd read pamphlets, and I even spoke to some Nubians or Nawabians. I don't know if you're aware of them. They're kind of like a black supremacist group that are Islamized, but they're not Muslim. Okay, they're like the Nation of Islam, but only
that Egyptian kind of.
Yeah, they're way out. Yeah. But anyway, they call themselves Muslim. Okay, I spoke to them. So I just done some research, and then there was some Muslim friends of mine that I said, look, come round my flat and speak to me about your religion. You just tell me what it is, okay? And 3 times we set up this meeting, and 3 times they let me down. They didn't come round, okay? So I thought, okay, if they won't come to me, I'll go to them. So I went to a masjid in Shoreditch, in East London, and it was Ramadan. And I didn't know it was Ramadan, by the way. So I went, and my intention was to go there and ask about because of what leaflets and things I'd read, Muslims didn't believe that Jesus was crucified. So I thought, that's really something I need to know about, because I've seen the movie. I know in my world he was crucified. Okay, so you need to tell me why you don't think he's crucified. So I went there to ask about that, and that was it. And it was Ramadan, and I remember sitting at the back of the mosque. It's a big mosque, and it was they were praying Tarawih. Obviously, I didn't know that was Tarawih. I just thought, mate, these guys, this lot can pray. You know what I mean? If they do this every night, they're some dedicated people. You know what I mean? So anyway, after the prayer, I sat down with couple of Arab guys. The rest of them were, to be honest, were probably Bangladeshi or Pakistani at that point down there. But I managed to home in on a couple of Arab guys home. We ended up sitting and talking. I asked him some questions, and he answered the question about Jesus, peace be upon him. He asked questions about being one God and everything else. And I thought, well, what am I asking questions for? What am I, there's no need to keep asking. I think what he's saying is the truth. So I took my shahada there and then, in the middle of Ramadan. I'm not going to say, yeah. You know,
if that was your first time in the mosque?
Yeah, it was my first time in the mosque. Okay. It was my first time in the mosque. Because look, if you're looking for the truth and the truth comes to you, there's no point keep asking. You know, this is a problem or a kind of a trick from the shaitan when I'm speaking to non-Muslims and they say, I'm interested in this, I want to know more. Okay, fine, you need to know more. I want to read the Quran. Well, we want to read all of it. How much do you want to know before you accept it? You know enough to know the truth, and then you lifetime of studying. What are you going to do? It's one of these, I'm going to do it then, I'm going to do it then. And you keep procrastinating and putting it off. You never get there. But for me, it's a case of like, once you know the truth, you accept the truth, and then you learn from there. You continue from there.
You know, just for some context for the viewers, you know, like this is in the 90s we're talking.
Yes, 28 years ago.
Yes, this is before Islam became, you know, trendy. And
it wasn't fashionable.
Like it wasn't fashionable.
No, it wasn't.
And the other thing, you used the word called Fitra. Explain to the viewers, because there's non-Muslims watching this.
Yes.
So explain to the viewers
what the Fitra is a natural instinct that Allah has put into humans and to animals as well. But Allah has put into humans to seek out and acknowledge one God, that there is one God, you know. And as we grow up and we get called into communities and families and whatever peer group pressures, that natural Fitra gets diverted into other things, even to atheism, to believing in no God, or to believing in multiple gods, or to believing in the Trinity, or in stuff like this. But your natural inclination as a human being is to believe in one God. So for me, it was just a Fitra that hadn't entirely been corrupted, you know, to a point it was still enough intact that when I heard the truth, it was enough. So I didn't have to go through it.
And obviously, growing up, you know, in the UK, Christianity, what was it about Christianity why you couldn't, like, just naturally fall back on that and say, okay, you're going to be a religious Christian? Like, what was it about Christianity?
I mean, I looked at Christianity, but I just couldn't get over the fact that Jesus was God. You know, the explanation, even back then, Jesus is God and he's a son of God and he's part of God. Well, mate, what one is it? Even back then, it was that just doesn't make sense. And then when I used to watch, there's an old film called The Ten Commandments. Mate, it's about 6 hours long. I forget one of the old, it might be 1950s it was made. Okay, I used to watch it. And Moses there, Musa alayhi salam, was praying to God. And I thought, yeah, that makes sense that he's praying to God. And I watched that film. Back then, you could only get it on videotapes, you know, like the old videotapes you had to put in, press down.
A VHS. Something
like that, yeah. And so I used to watch it, and it made sense to me that he was praying to God. It didn't make sense to me that Jesus was God. It just didn't make sense. I mean,
I think it's that thing of like believing a human is God.
Or anything is God. You know, or anything is God, yeah. I mean, I just couldn't work out. And the whole thing that Jesus was obviously depicted as blonde-haired and blue-eyed, and I thought, mate, come on. I mean, you know, this is not going to be blonde-haired and blue-eyed coming from that part of the world, is he?
Oh, you actually was thinking that back then?
Yeah, because he couldn't have been. I mean, look, even if you're racist, you're not stupid. You know that Jesus just couldn't have been that colour, because he's not part of the world where people are generically that colour. You know what I mean? So even that I was suspicious about, you know, even back then, even though it suited me to believe that he was white, because if God is white or God's son is white, then obviously white is right. But even me, I was.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So that's how they get you. They, you know.
And even like you said with the racist, you're St. George is like meant to be Greek or Turkish or something, right?
St. George.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's meant to be Turkish, stroke anything. I mean, whatever he wasn't from Luton. Do you know what I mean? So he wasn't going to be white, was he? Yeah. It never really bothered me actually what colour they was, but I just knew that he weren't white, and if that was a lie,
what else could be?
Yeah, it was all going to be a lie.
So in the masjid, when you took your shahada, did you understand the gravity of what you just did?
No.
Okay.
No, I did not. I did not. I fasted the next day, and it was during winter, so it wasn't very difficult, to be quite honest with you. The thing was, because what I'd done is once I took my shahada, I had to have a shower with the pot, you know, like a little kettle, and then I got covered in musk. Actually, it was really done quite strangely because no one prepared me for anything.
You weren't ready for it.
No, I wasn't ready for it.
You didn't know you were going to do it.
No, I didn't know I was going to do it. And then
I don't
everyone...
think you have to do that Islamically anyway.
What's that?
The whole bath thing. Is that
No, but they did that. And then they dressed me in what I recognise now to be Bangladeshi clothes. Okay? And I was stinking of musk. I hugged there about 200 men I never met in my life. And then I went home to my then girlfriend.
How did that feel when that was going on in the mosque?
Weird. It was. I mean, it wasn't weird in a really bad way or an uncomfortable way. Just like, I didn't expect this to happen. Who are these guys lining up to hug me? Why are they hugging me? You know, no one said, look, if you become Muslim, this is what's going to happen.
You didn't know about brotherhood and you didn't know
none of that. I didn't become Muslim for brotherhood or protection or anything like that. I just become because the questions I asked got answered and they felt right. So I just did it on that. The whole what was going to happen afterwards, I didn't even think about. So then I rocked up at the house with my girlfriend.
Before the journey back from Shoreditch to Luton.
Yes.
What was going through your mind?
Well, I was kind of just a little bit excited, a little bit confused. I wanted to know what I needed to do the next day because they told me you don't have to fast because you're a new Muslim, but it's Ramadan and we're fasting. So I was like, well, what do I do then? Do I not eat? Do I not drink?
It's brand new to me.
What do I do? Yeah. How do I pray?
What time?
Yeah, everything. I mean, it was all a bit new to me. Well, it was very new to me, and I wasn't prepared. But alhamdulillah, it didn't have to be because I adapted to it.
And were you living with your parents?
No, I was living with my then girlfriend. Okay.
How did that go?
Not well. I left the house one way, and I come back another, and I'm like, darling, look, I'm a Muslim now. And she's like, when I walked in the door, I can't say on camera, but it was colourful. What do you look like? You're dressed like an effing, I was thinking, what are you wearing? What are you doing? And I'm trying to explain to her that I've just become Muslim, and it's like 12 o'clock at night. So I've gone 12 or 1 o'clock at night or something like that. And she was like, okay, I don't know what you're doing, what you've been on, but this is a bit too much. Because for her, it was a bit much as well.
Of course.
I went out in a tracksuit, come back dressed like a Bangladeshi, smelling funny, talking about Islam.
I think it might be Salwar Kameez.
Probably, yeah. It was a big brown one, really baggy. It was way too big for me anyway. I mean, they just thought I needed to wear it for some reason. And so I went back and told her that. And then, it was, I'm getting up in the morning, I'm going to pray, I'm not eating tomorrow, I'm not going to drink tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. So obviously for her, it's not the best way to break the news to anyone, but it was what it was. I mean, there was no manual back then to say this is what you should do. There was no guidance.
It was just, where to go?
No, nothing like that, nothing at all. So, and then, so I just jumped in feet first and just thought, okay, well, this is it now. This is what I have to do.
And how was it telling your parents?
Again, my mum didn't really take much notice, to be quite honest. She was not the sort to worry too much about these things. I ended up having to move back in with my parents because after a few weeks of still living with my then girlfriend, it was becoming clear from what I was being told by the Muslims that you can't live with your girlfriend. You have to be married. And she wasn't ready to become Muslim and she definitely wasn't ready to get married, although we had a child, a newborn baby. Yeah. So I moved in with my parents at that, after that, which was only like a 10-minute walk up. It's still on Marsh Farm. Okay. It's just down the road, really. So I just moved in with them, back into my old bedroom.
How did your father take it?
Again, he's like, in the beginning, very white, very English, very, what are you doing here? What's going on? Why ain't you with your missus? This, that type of thing. And this is all a bit weird. And I think he thought it would just go, it would just be like a phase. You pass, you grow out of it. You will just get past it, and then that'll be like something you did, but you don't do anymore. But it wasn't, and he actually became Muslim.
Mashallah.
Yeah, before he died. Yeah, he about 5 or 6 years before he died.
Mashallah.
Yeah,
that's very deep.
Yeah.
So, this is the 90s now. There's no internet.
No.
So you're Muslim now. Here now, if you turn Muslim now, you can go online, ask questions.
Yeah.
What did you do next?
I just had to keep going to the Masjid.
What Masjid did you go to?
And the one I was going to, one in Bury Park. It was...
Cause I don't think there would have been a Masjid in Marsh Farm at that time.
There's still not.
Yeah, still not now.
No,
today.
you've got 2 halal butchers.
But no, okay, no.
I know, but I really want to build one, inshallah. I really want to make one there, yeah. Anyone who sees this video wants to help, yeah.
Of course.
I really do. So that would be brilliant for me to help build a masjid.
Definitely,
there.
Yeah, that'd be a big thing. Yeah,
but for me it would.
Like
for me,
Islamic centre or something.
Anything like that. For me, we've got 2 halal butchers.
People need Islam. Man.
Yeah, so I go to Hockwell Ring now and pray because it's the nearest one to me. Okay. So I was just going to the masjid in Bury Park with the guys that I knew. Okay, they were called most of them brothers there. and they were sending me out on their weekends with them,
Yeah.
at least once a month, which I thought was normal. I thought every Muslim in the world done that.
Yeah.
I soon come to learn later on that they didn't, but at the moment I didn't know. I didn't know any different. But I was going there learning to pray and
You're on a
everything else.
journey, of course. you
Yeah,
have to,
but it was if I would have stayed with them, I would have probably left the deen. Simply because they are not back then. Allah knows best about now, but back then were not equipped to deal with reverts.
Okay,
They
yeah.
tried to completely absorb you into their culture. Now you're a Muslim, you have to be like us.
Yeah.
And it was a conflict of like, well,
That's
I'm
a problem.
not you though.
Yeah.
I'm English. I like shepherd's pie. I like, my food, as it were. I mean,
exactly, yeah.
and the fact that the only way they could deal with it was to make you like one of them was a problem.
Because they just didn't know how to deal with it.
They just didn't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
And I'm looking back on it now. At the time, I was a bit frustrated. Looking back on it now, years and years later, I'm a bit more understanding of them. But at the time, I was getting frustrated. I was getting angry. Like, well, I'm not Bangladeshi, mate, or I'm not Pakistani. I don't want to talk. They said I should learn Urdu before I should learn Arabic. I said, why? There's all the scholars talking Urdu. Well, all of them.
Because a lot of the masjids back then were very Asian orientated.
They still are.
Yeah, they still are, but I mean, at that time, like, they don't even speak English on the Friday sermons. Now they've started to, some masjids have.
I think it should be law.
Yeah, I think, of course, in England they should speak English because all the kids.
English and Arabic.
Yeah, English and Arabic.
Yeah.
So at that time, the masjids were very, very cultural. Even for us, as we're British born.
Yeah.
It was very difficult for us to connect with the people inside the masjid.
Yeah. So you can imagine for me.
Yeah, do you understand?
Yeah.
So there was like a massive barrier between us and them.
Yeah.
Like we were like, you guys are on a different planet.
Yeah.
You know
So
what I mean?
for me, they was in a different galaxy.
Exactly. Yeah.
Never planet, mate. We were in a different universe.
Galaxy, yeah.
Yeah. So I ended up leaving them. I remember one day, there was a day, actually, I can narrow it down to a point, actually. I was sitting in the masjid and it was maybe half an hour or something before prayer.
Yeah.
And, you go in, you pray, you sit down and you make a little bit of dhikr. I was trying to read or something like that. And when someone looks at you and you look at them and you catch their eye, they go, and they look away. I always see me looking, so I'll look away. Like, it's not polite if you're staring at someone and they know you're staring. It's like the time where you say, I'm going to stop staring. Well, not for me. It was they would just keep. So one uncle was staring at me. So I looked at him. He kept. Another uncle staring at me. Another uncle. They're just staring at me constantly. And
It makes you uncomfortable.
And this was like 2 years in. And I said, I'm done with this. I'm done. I can't come here. You know what I mean? I'm feeling really annoyed. I shouldn't be. I should be coming to pray.
Pray, of course.
Yeah. And I think at that,
Feel out of place.
I was out of place. I didn't feel out of place. I was out of place.
Yeah.
I felt out of place because I was out of place.
100. Yeah.
So
They make you feel like that, definitely. I know that.
So, and then obviously I started moving with some other brothers that are, one might call them now Salafis. I started moving because there was more reverts, there was more mixture of people, and it was much more easy for me to
more of a brotherhood.
Yeah, and there's more reverts, but then I started moving and I started learning, and then that's how I started to be sort of move with them. Even though I'm not really staunchly with anybody as such, but that was who I was. Took me. I left from them and sort of joined with them, as it were.
That's an important question I want to ask, just from your aspect. Like, so you turned Muslim in 99?
98, I think.
98, sorry. So roughly 26 years, roughly.
28.
Yeah, sorry, 28, yeah. 27. Guys, today's podcast is in partnership with Stone & Co Solicitors, experts in serious and complex criminal matters. If you have a criminal matter that you need help with, or you've been arrested and want the best representation, contact the number below or drop them an email. All the information is on the screen below, as you can see. Stone & Co can offer specialist criminal defense services on a private basis or legal aid, so you don't pay nothing. And as a promotional offer, they're offering a case review in person or over the phone, free of charge, no obligation, no fees.
You know why? Because my eldest son's 28.
Okay.
And he was 3 months old when I got. So however long that was.
So soon after you turned Muslim, 9/11 happened.
That's right.
Like, I could speak from my experiences. It changed my world. The way people viewed me. How was it for you having non-Muslim family, and how was that for you? That
Before that, it was like no one had anything really bad to say about Islam. Like you're Muslim, you just left you to it. You was them over there, but they didn't bother you. you know, and they just probably didn't, you know, pay much attention, to be quite honest. After that, everything changed, man. Everything changed.
Overnight.
Overnight. I mean, I remember being at work and someone was saying, there's something going on in the news in New York, and I didn't see it. So when I got home, I seen it on the news. So bloody hell, there's some planes going into it, but this is like, it was huge news, wasn't it? It was like the biggest news of news, okay? And then it turned out that they were Muslim, apparently, according to the media depiction of what happened. So, oh, mate. And then I didn't really think that the backlash would be quite as big as it was. It was huge.
I don't think your mind was ready.
No one was expecting that. But the backlash was like really quick and really bad. And now being a Muslim all of a sudden was like, you were just a terrorist. You had to prove you weren't.
That's exactly how it was, yeah.
You're Muslim. You have to, now you're a terrorist until you prove to me that you're not. And the only way you can prove to me that you're not is by by acquiescing and capitulating to what we say and acting like we act. And I think it strengthened a lot of people and it threw a lot of people off.
Yeah, definitely 100%. And you know, especially for the Asian community, I would say it was even worse because, you know, we dealt with that racism first. Kind of like, you know, towards the 2000s that started to, you know, not go away but get better.
Yeah.
And then bam, this hits.
That hit, yeah.
You understand? So now they had it here, brown Muslim terrorists.
Simple as that. I mean, had the pictures of Bin Laden up at that point, just about everywhere, you know, like, and he become the picture of a Muslim.
Exactly, yeah, with a beard and
turban, beard, the look, you know, and that was how you were labelled. And if you was a white Muslim, then that's when they hated me. I mean, that's when I started getting real hate. They call me traitor. Yeah, that was the word. Online, I get called traitor. That was
the lead question I was leading to. How did a section of the society deal with you who happen to be, you know, white, non-Muslim? How did they take to you?
Well, so you lose friends when you become Muslim, and you lose family as a revert. I mean, I think even now that happens, although it's probably easier for them to accept it now because Islam is much more known about. But back then, you would naturally lose your friends, and naturally, so I'd say 90% of the friends that I had in Jahiliyyah done. They just left me completely. Because what did we have in common at that point? I wasn't going to the pub, I wasn't drinking, I wasn't doing what they were doing, so there was no friendship.
You trying to give them dawah?
Yeah. And that annoyed them as well. Do you know what I mean? Because you're either giving dawah or taking it. But it's either me affecting you positively or you affecting me negatively.
Yeah.
And
drink, drugs.
Conversation. Any conversation that you have where you're not remembering Allah is going to be a burden for you on Judgment Day. And they don't even know Allah to talk about. So for me, I would always try and mention about Islam or Allah or some type of dawah in that conversation, because that's the only way I could justify being there.
To them, it must have been just like I said, like you're on another planet, because now 9/11's happened.
Yeah,
you're trying to give them dawah. They're probably looking at you like you're mad.
Yeah, and you got to couple that with the inexperience of giving dawah.
Of course,
as well.
That blames on you.
Yeah. Well, it is to a point, but someone's got to teach you to give dawah.
You got to learn. There's a learning curve.
Yeah, it's a learning curve. So, you know, sometimes you're a little bit overzealous in that. You're a little bit overexcited in the early days. Alhamdulillah, now I think reverts get a lot more support. But back then it was like, mate, you were just chucked in. Now you're a Muslim, and it's actually your job to tell everyone.
100%.
You know, and it's your responsibility to tell everyone. And even back then, the Salafi brothers were young themselves. That was like 28 years ago. A lot of them were first generation people into the dawah. So they were new.
What would you have done differently knowing what you know now when you were giving dawah then?
I would have learnt my deen a lot more. And I would have learnt my deen a lot more because knowledge precedes speech. Definitely. Okay? And so I would have learnt my deen a lot more, and I've also would have been a lot softer, a lot more easy with it. Not so much confrontational, not so pugilistic. It would have been more like information based and more chilled. Like, I'm here to answer your questions, and actually this is why I say this, and this is why, because I love you in a sense that I love you as a human, I want to give you Islam. And the way I'm doing it is just by talking to you. That's how I deal with it now. But back then it was a case of, it was me and you. It was I win or you win. And I wasn't, you know, and a lot of the brothers were like that back then. It was kind of clash.
And that's the reason why I asked you that question, because a lot of the young brothers, when they give dawah now, it gets very confrontational, argumentative, and things like that. And that's not really the way.
And I think that social media is to blame for a lot of that now, because dawah back then wasn't on camera. Now dawah is content.
Exactly, yeah. Dawah is monetized.
It's content. I mean, look, There's no harm in filming your dawah if it's positive.
Of course, yeah.
But there's no point me going to give dawah, let's say for Speaker's Corner, to win an argument,
Yeah.
and lose a person.
Exactly, yeah. That's
You know,
true,
I'm just here to win and score points, because social media is like the Colosseum, the modern Colosseum. People join it sometimes just to see verbal drama, or even physical, even. You know what I mean? But for me, that's not dawah. That's refutation. That's debate. That's argument.
Yeah.
That's not that. Dawah is calling.
Yeah.
So there is the EF dawah. I don't know if you're familiar with the brothers EF dawah in Thai Park.
I've seen it, yeah, on the line.
Two brothers, sort of maturer, mellow, polite, calm, have rational conversations. They're not looking to win fights verbally. I mean, and this is why their channel isn't as big as other channels. But if you actually
they
watch,
don't have controversies.
they're not controversial. Controversial topics win. I make a video about halal chicken and it does 1.6 million. You do something about Tawheed and 4,000. This is what people are like.
Exactly,
This is why, the scholars are not personalities. We want personalities. We want to be edumained. We want to be educated and entertained at the same time.
Yeah.
It don't work like that. It shouldn't work like that. There's no sincerity. There's lack of sincerity. I'm not saying no sincerity. There's a lack of sincerity in that. And as I've matured in my life and matured in my religion, I've come to that place. So, I mean, I'm desperately trying to help Muslim men specifically, men generally, but Muslim men specifically, because they need the most work and I'm more responsible to them than anyone else.
You have like a community.
I want one. Inshallah, I have a little one on my social media platform, but I do most of my work you don't see.
We'll add the link in the bio.
Yeah, Al Rijal. Yeah, okay. A lot of the stuff I do you don't see. I mean, I put a minute video up a day. You think that the rest of the day I'm asleep? I'm online, I'm helping to talk, I'm talking, I'm giving dawah, I'm have people that text me regularly, I'm in contact with on the phone regularly, new Muslims and things like this, okay? But generally speaking, I'm trying to help men, but more specifically, I'm trying to help Muslim men because they need the most help. If we're supposed to be the leaders in the community, then we have a lot more to do, a lot more responsibility.
Definitely.
In our families, and when I say leaders, not mean we're taking over the country, I mean, but we're supposed to be the role models. Because Muslims are held to a higher standard, period. That's why when you see a Muslim doing something wrong, all of a sudden the religion's in question. You see a Christian doing something wrong and no one says Christianity's in question.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
So because in their fitra they know it's true.
Because it knows it is the haqq.
This is the truth. And when you represent the truth, my friend, you have to represent it knowing that you're representing something bigger than you. You are not you anymore. You are representing, you're an outward
you're
Muslim.
Ambassador.
You're outward Muslim. So you have to do things now knowing that the world's, and if you're going to be online, then you're going to be even more.
More, exactly. You've got to represent it properly.
Yeah. Or try to at least keep your heart clean. And that's not easy.
That's not easy.
That's not easy to keep your heart clean and be on social media. It's not right. It's not easy to do.
And you know what is like, obviously on social media now, we need help ourselves, but there's people that need real help, Some people are just not just lost in a dark place. When you don't have Allah in your life, it puts you in a dark place. So could you imagine people? I had a guy on here, I'm not a Muslim, but he was from the Mexican cartel.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, seen a bit of that.
Yeah, seen it, about to commit suicide.
Yeah,
he just wanted to end it because he's had enough. No real reason. He just had enough of life. And there's so many people in that situation who've never heard of Islam, who've never heard the correct understanding of Islam. Because I was reading some statistic here in the UK, just in the UK alone, forget Europe, just the UK, the amount of men that commit suicide.
It's tragic.
And most of them are non-Muslim.
Yeah,
the
tragic.
vast majority.
Yeah.
It is the numbers are insane. And they shocked me when I saw it. I was like, this can't be right.
But how sad do you have to? Because I've been there, with the suicide thing years before I was a Muslim. Okay, and I've been there. I've never, because I don't want to talk about my sins. Okay, but it's relevant to this point that I want to make. Okay, we used to take a little bit of some drugs, like cocaine and ecstasy and acid and LSD and stuff like that. That was a party pills at the time, okay? I've never been so low as when I was high. In my side, in my inside. When you're high, but in your inside you're dying. You're low. And I can remember being in the Docklands in the Isle of Dogs. It was very late at night, probably in the early hours of the morning. I can't remember exactly. And I was a bit spaced out. And I was sitting on the edge of the dock. And at that point it was night and the water, it looked like oil. And just the lights flickering on it. It was before the whole thing was built. and it was just flickering, and the dock. So I don't know. It was a big drop, and it would have been about 10 foot, and there was no way out. Once you're in, you can't climb up a ladder steps to get out. Once you're in, you're in. So I'm sitting on the edge of the thing, and I could just hear this voice going, jump, just do it, just jump, just go.
Psychosis.
I could just hear the voice, the shaitan. I could just hear him. I didn't know what it was at the time, and I was kind of rocking backwards and forwards.
Contemplating.
I was going to do it. I don't know why I didn't do it, but I didn't, obviously, because I'm here talking to you. But imagine that would have been, if I'd have dropped in there in the middle of the night, the cold would have took my breath away, and there was no way out. I would have drowned. I would have been dead. Alhamdulillah, Allah saved me, and he had a different life planned for me. Alhamdulillah, so I'm very grateful for that. But how this is how it happens. I'm sure some people are just desperate, and they be in a situation where they just think, and they don't even mean to do it. It's just kind of like a cry of help, or. And
what is it? What is like? Well, let me ask you this question, because I've never understood it. Because no matter what path I went down in my life, I've been in some dark paths, dark places. Just being a Muslim, just something, suicide has never come to my mind. Never, not once. It's just something, and I speak for a lot of Muslims.
Yeah.
It's just something we don't contemplate. What is it in England, especially Europe, or whatever you want to call it, even places like Japan, non-Muslim, what is it about suicide and like the West? What is this? I don't understand this fascination with it.
Allahu Alam, but I'm thinking, my thought is that because you're a Muslim, at that time, your whole life you've been raised in a Muslim family, you always believed in a heaven and a hell, and accountability and afterlife. When you're detached from that and you don't believe in a heaven and a hell, and you don't believe in a God as such, and you just want it all to stop. You just want it to stop. You've split up with your missus, or you can't get any jobs, or you're just depressed. You just want it to go away. You don't look at it as a test. You just look at it as punishment. It's just life is just crap. I just want out. I just want to stop everything and get out. And they don't contemplate heaven and hell because they don't believe in that. So that detachment from their creator is what sends them to that darkest of places. As a Muslim, you can say, oh my God, I've lost my job, I lost my business, I lost my wife, I've lost this, I've lost that. And look at the people of Gaza. They've lost everything and still say Alhamdulillah. That's unfathomable to non-Muslims. It's like, mate, you're picking your kids up off the street, and you're still saying Alhamdulillah.
And they would not even consider suicide.
No, because they say, let Allah take me. Now, this is high level Iman. May Allah, we all got lessons to learn from them. Non-Muslims don't have that connection with their creator. So if they don't have that connection, that's an option. Taking that option is an option because it just ends it. Whereas for Muslims, it doesn't end it. And as a Muslim, we know now there's a Muslim that doesn't end it, mate. You know what I mean? Now you got more to come. This is just a blip. This is the time. This is just a tiny little stage of your existence. This is like, this is nothing. This little life is 100 years, maybe at most. Not many people live that long. Imagine living 100 years and then the rest of eternity when time doesn't exist. There's 100 years is nothing. I can remember being at school, and I'm 55 today. And that was like it was yesterday. I look at photographs like it was yesterday. And I'm near the end now. I'm further to the one side than I am the other, for sure. But when non-Muslims don't have that connection with their creator, that's where the desperation comes in, because your fitra, your heart, is not attached to the one that created you. And what's the soul been made for? It's been made to be attached to the creator. People say we don't pray. Why do you have to pray? You have to pray because God wants your... No, God doesn't need... God knows that he created you to be attached to him. The blessing is for us to be attached to him in prayer 5 times. Allah says, check in with me 5 times a day. Stay with, stay, because that's what's best for you. Non-Muslims, bless them, don't have that.
That's true.
And you know what? I'm not going to say it's selfish for Muslims to have Islam and not share it. It's just selfish. I was angry with you guys for a while when I become Muslim. I said, well, you knew all this and you didn't tell me?
You didn't tell me, yeah.
You didn't tell me? Why didn't you tell me? Why did you have this religion and you knew all of this and now you didn't even tell me? I had to go and find out. How selfish are you people? How arrogant are you people? And Allah says he'll take you and give it to someone else.
That's why, I've noticed this as well. You see it online as well. A lot of the white people I've noticed, they would go to Muslim countries for holiday, and that's their first exposure to Islam.
Yeah.
Apart from Sky News.
Yeah.
And they're just shocked. And there's videos of people taking Shahada in Oman and Bahrain and stuff like that, because they just, this is Islam?
Yeah.
Because they had no idea. Because like I said, it's true, especially from our generations.
Yeah.
Dawah was not as predominant as it is now.
I don't blame your fathers and grandfathers. When they come here, they was in survival mode.
Village mentality.
So they didn't speak English very well. They didn't probably know the religion very well. And they just had to come here and establish a house, a job, a shop, a business, I don't know, a masjid, butchers. They was in survival mode. What are you guys going to say? Now, you were born here. You speak the lingo better than anyone. You know the country as well as anyone. What's your excuse?
Yeah, it's true, 100%.
So, you know, and it's always better that, you know, particular people like white people give dawah to white people, black people give dawah to black people and everything else. But it doesn't exempt you from doing it.
Of course.
It just means that it's probably optional for some people. For me, it wouldn't matter. Personally speaking, if a white guy gave me dawah or a black guy, it wouldn't make any difference to me at all. But for some people, it may be more comfortable for them. But it doesn't excuse you of the responsibility.
In the UK, you would know better than me, like, how big is the white revert community?
Okay, it's growing, alhamdulillah, but it's nowhere near where it should be.
Of course we know.
Now, look, predominantly the population in this country are white, still, okay? It's probably going to change at some point, but at the moment, right? If I went into a masjid in China, how many Chinese people would be in the masjid?
Not many, I don't think.
Well, in China, bruv.
There's 50 million Muslims apparently.
Right, so they'd be Chinese, innit?
Of course.
Right,
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
If I went to a masjid in Japan,
Japanese Muslims.
if I went to Morocco,
Moroccan Muslims.
Pakistan,
Pakistani
right,
Muslims.
in England,
Pakistanis, Bangladeshis, Indians.
very few white.
Yes, true.
Right,
Yeah.
so there's a problem now. It's either white people are just spiritually not connected to accept the truth, or Muslims are not doing a very good job of conveying the truth. Now, we have our own media channels, like we have podcasts, we have social media, we have phones, so we can combat the narrative of the mainstream media now, and we're doing, for the most part, a very good job of that. You know, in some aspects of our social media, it's very positive. But we need to do more. I'm not saying because I just want white people to become Muslim, because I want everyone to become Muslim.
Everyone, yeah.
But white people we have to make an effort on the people that are indigenous.
They're the majority here.
The majority here. Yeah. So I should go into the masjid and at least see a good percentage of the masjid should be white.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, most of the time it's just me. In Luton, I'm not saying it's all the time, but a lot of the time it's just me or one or two others. Alhamdulillah, we have quite a lot of black reverts from West Indian backgrounds. That community seems quite active. They give a lot of dawah, mashallah.
But I think you touched on a very important point about people from your background giving dawah to British people, because they might be more kind of like willing to take it. You understand? And I think there definitely needs to be more done. Well,
I work on building sites, so obviously being a white revert on a building site, it's a battlefield and it's a fertile farm for dawah. Because I'm like them. What are they going to do? Out-white me? I'm from them. Yeah. There's no mix here. I am you. You know what I'm saying? I'm you, mate. I talk more like you than you do.
You do, exactly.
I look more like you than you do.
You know the culture.
I know the culture. I am your culture.
You was in the culture.
I am the culture. I'm still in the culture. Yeah. If you come to my house, you eat English food. If I come to your house, I'm expecting to eat your food. And if I went to a West Indian, bro, I'm expecting my rice and peas. You know, I love that. I love the fact that we have different cultures. Allah says, I created you in tribes so you can know each other. I think it's beautiful.
Look at even this room. Bangladeshi, Pakistani, British, and Palestinian, mashallah.
Mashallah. So you can see the beauty of Islam, how it brings you together under something bigger than us. So, you know, it unites us upon belief. So that's the beautiful thing. I've got some of my closest friends are people that look completely different to me. You know what I mean? So when it comes to giving dawah on building sites, obviously a white guy is probably, because my skin will get me into conversations that your skin can't get into. So they'll act differently around me, and they will say things different, especially when they don't know you're Muslim. But there has to be a bit more work done, and I don't think it's all your responsibility to do it, because it's like I said, it's when I say you, I don't mean you, I mean the Muslim community, like Pakistani, Bangladeshi, Somali, Arabs. I think it's all their responsibility. There is more probably responsibility on the likes of me and other white reverts. But we need a bit more help.
Definitely,
we need a bit more support in that,
because a lot of the establishments are kind of run by Asian background, Arab background, the masjids, and so they need to open up, I feel.
So I've done something, I tried to reach out to a lot of the masjid, and I do a project called British and Muslim, where me and a brother, Jordan M, I don't know if you've heard of him, he's a white revert, he's quite big on YouTube, mashallah, nice brother. And we were going to go round to the masjids and do a free talk. This is all free, okay? And just explain how to speak to white people and why they ask the questions that they ask. What's the meaning? What's the psychology when I ask you that? Because some white people ask you something in a confrontational way because they're a little bit proud to ask you in a humble way. Why do you wear, what's with the beard, bruv? What's all that? But really they want to know. But can't say, bruv, I really want to know why you have a beard. What's the significance? But they'll ask you in a Mickey taking way because banter is culture for us.
That's true.
You know, so but we're the best at it as well. You know what I'm saying? You last 5 seconds in a banter match with me on building sites. So it's like we're on it. But we have to know how to deal with it and give dawah to that. You know, no masjid is free of charge. We'll come and deliver the talk, okay, and everything else. And we not want anything for it. Every single masjid that I approached said no.
Really?
Yeah. Every single masjid.
It's just the dawah for non-Muslims, basically.
How?
Yeah,
no, like how are you gonna start the conversation? What if they say this? What if they say that? Why they say that? Why they say? I just generally have a talk and keep it informal. There's a few questions and answers and everything else. And
but why would they say no?
I go and ask them, bro. I don't know. Because when you go into a masjid, what happens is you have a committee, a shura, and then the people on the shura, there's always one or two of the awkward ones, okay?
Politics.
Yeah, and then they don't want anything that's out of the ordinary.
They like you to keep it the way they like it.
No change. No change means they keep where they are.
Yeah.
Change means they might not. And they just don't understand it.
And I think now, man, they got to really catch up, man, because we're so far now from the 70s and 80s now.
Yeah.
And there's so much going on, even with their own kids, that they need it. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I find it.
Well, this is what I said about the Al Rijal being not specifically, but predominantly for Muslim men, because they do need help. And if we don't help each other, we can't rely on anyone else to help us.
100%.
You know what I mean? So we have to. And I've made every mistake in the book, and probably 2 or 3 times each. So I'm not talking because I'm such a bright, intelligent, know-it-all, Jordan Peterson type professor. I've just made the mistakes, and I don't think you don't want to make them, mate. You know what I mean? You don't want to make the mistakes I've made.
And I feel like alhamdulillah, social media is good, and there's benefit to it, no doubt. But I feel especially the youngsters, need to have the connection with the masjid.
Yeah,
they need to have that connection to be going in there regularly on a regular basis and things like that.
So then you have to have activities for them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but
And
there's a disconnect.
We've tried everything. I've even said to the masjids local to me, why don't we set up a wrestling evening, free? And we won't let them do proper wrestling because he could get injured. But just take them through the basics. I've got some brothers in Luton that are, mashallah, professional wrestlers and professional MMA fighters. They volunteered their time. Said, but they don't want to know. I think maybe because it's me and I'm white, maybe they just think, what you doing here? I don't want to touch it. If you offered me a position on any committee, I'd run a mile because I can't deal with them.
The politics.
I can't deal with it, but I'm too straight for that. But I would definitely come in and help.
Of course.
I help out a charity called MATW, Muslims Around the World, the one that started by Ali Banner. As an ambassador, I don't get anything for it, okay? I went to my local masjid I go to every day and other masjids and say, can I come in at Ramadan and just do a collection? It's not. I don't get anything. It's 100%. You go on the link and donate it. Don't give me.
You don't get no money.
No. You go on the link and you just donate. Yeah. Said yes and then said no. Said yes and then said no. So
that was the one that Ali Banat set up.
Yeah.
Right?
And I got all the cover letters from the charity to say that I'm
very nice guy.
Yeah, mashallah, his rewards.
We're gonna put the link in the bio.
Yeah. Because I don't get nothing. Well, I'll get the rewards inshallah, but that's all I need.
We hope the brother gets the rewards too.
Yeah.
After Sadqa Jariyah.
No.
Inshallah.
So but just like I said, even asking to give charity in a masjid is a no.
No, yeah, because it's
it's a no.
There's too much politics, man. Yeah. People are being for this.
And I can see the frustrations on your younger generation's faces in the masjids.
Of course, yeah.
They're just waiting for the old guys to retire.
There's a disconnect, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's just a massive disconnect.
We need youngsters. Youngsters are the future.
You've got 1 or 2 masjids in the UK that are kind of a bit on the ball, but think about it. Thousands, we got 1 or 2.
Yeah. It's not enough.
It's not enough.
They need to do more because the youngsters are just saying, well, the uncles will have to retire or die before we get a chance to sort of step in and take over because there'll be no one else to do it. So they'll have to naturally mature into that role.
Moving on to the early 2000s, around 10 and stuff like that. Like Luton became very heavily on the news. The EDL. That's where the EDL was formed, right?
Yeah.
That's where it started.
That's the centre point. Yeah.
The centre point.
It still is.
Can you explain some background around that, some context?
Well, Tommy Robertson obviously is the founder of EDL, and in fact, the first EDL was the Jewish Defence League. Not the EDL. One. Yeah, the first one. There still is. It's registered as a Jewish Defence League.
Same people?
Yeah.
So explain.
So if you look at the EDL, the first EDL was the Jewish Defence League.
Why did you? I don't understand. What's the Patriots? What's the Jewish
No,
Defense?
that's the first organisation.
And Tommy was part of that
And then-
organisation.
Well, it transpires that he probably was, yeah. But then the EDL. So there's a JDL and the EDL.
Okay.
But the first one out of the two was the Jewish one.
Okay.
So anyway, Tommy Robinson always had a beef in Luton with the Pakistani gangs. He was in a gang of football lads, hooligans and stuff like that. And the Pakistanis had their gangs too. Like I said, they had the Yellows and Gambinos and silly things like this. I don't think they exist now. And they always had their beef, their things going on. But like I said, when you're at the bottom of the pond, you deal with pond life at the bottom of the pond, whether it's black, white, brown, yellow or green.
Yeah.
When you come up to clean water where the sunlight is, you deal with clean people and nice people.
True,
okay?
yeah.
When you're at the bottom, brother, you're going to deal with the bottom
yeah.
feeders, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly, yeah.
And whether they're Muslim or not, that's where they are.
That's where they are, yeah.
So they had their beef. And then there was a group that was started in Luton as well.
I like the way you put that. I like that. Bottom of the pond.
Yeah, but yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter who they are.
That's exactly how it is.
That's all it is, isn't it? I don't care if they're black, white, brown. You're in there with them, mate. You know why I don't have any beef with drug dealers? Because I don't do drugs.
Exactly.
I don't sell drugs. So it's not a problem for me. You know what
Exactly,
I mean?
yeah.
Okay, I'm not.
Tommy's not entirely honest about. I'm not going to get into his background, but he's not entirely honest about his own background. You know what I mean?
Well, he doesn't have to be because everyone knows.
Yeah,
everyone knows.
everyone knows, yeah.
Everyone knows. So when you come up into fresh waters, then you deal with fresh, clean, enlightened people. When you're down there, you deal with people that are down there. You know. So was a group that was also started in Luton. It was a group of very overexcited young Muslim men who idealistically wanted to establish Khilafah in this country and everywhere else. Okay, now they done a demonstration when the soldiers were doing a homecoming in Luton town centre, and they done a demonstration there, having placards and everything else, and they had their women, their wives, and women folk there in niqabs and everything else. Tommy Robinson had his guys there as well to counter them, and from that confrontation, the police were there. From that confrontation, I'm sure it was staged, by the way. Then you had the birth of the EDL as a result of what they say happened with the. So that was for every yin you get a yang in it. For every Ku Klux Klan you get a Black Panther Party. For every, you know what I mean. There's always going to be an extreme to one to the other, and that was that. So that's how they evolved in Luton, and I'm sure they were funded from day dot by people that really had an agenda against Muslims. Definitely. And the young Muslim brothers that was involved in that, no matter what their intention was, the fruits of what they did was negative in the Muslim community. Really negative.
How did it affect the Muslim community?
Badly. I mean, look, you got these young guys. They were not welcome in the community, to be quite honest with you, bro.
Because the EDL try to make it like, yeah, they're all like that. They're all extremists.
Right. As far as
Break
I'm aware,
that down for the viewers.
As far as I'm aware, they was, and I'm telling you now, they was barred from every mosque that I knew of. They were not officially allowed in. If they got in on prayer time, they just got in and got out, you know. But they were not allowed in masjids. Most of the shops in Bury Park didn't want them. They used to give out their leaflets in the middle of Bury Park is a road in Luton, which is in the middle of the Muslim area. Okay, so they used to give out like a Dawah table, their version of the Dawah table. They hand out leaflets. They were not popular amongst the community. Let's be honest. They was about 8 to 10 strong, and then yeah, and then probably 8 to 10 to 15 fringe members. You know, like people want to get in the mix, but were not in the inner circle. The inner circle wasn't very big. You know, even when they done their national march in Luton, there was only probably 30, 40 of them. You know what I mean? So they weren't a very big group, and they were fringed, marginalised, okay? Now, they was doing a demonstration, and the masjid that I was praying Jummah at the time had saying, right, after Jummah, we're going to go out, and we are going to push them off the streets by, you know, like either physically or verbally push them off the street, okay? Anyway, a lot of the brothers disagreed with that. It happened anyway, and there was a big kerfuffle.
I think it was on YouTube.
Yeah, it was embarrassing. It was an embarrassment, to be quite honest. It was done.
It wasn't the way to do it.
No, it wasn't the way to do it. It was an embarrassing thing to do, and it was done about as bad as it could have been done. Anyway, there was a kerfuffle. The police come. You know, it was a bit messy. Now the next week, they had a police escort around them. And had a police escort, people around them, and the police were there saying, "Look, we've been told anyone comes near them, they're going to get nicked." Or they're going to get arrested. So who wanted them there? The shopkeepers didn't want them there. Most of the community didn't want them there. clearly the Masjids didn't want them there, but somebody wanted them there. And I kept saying to them, there was one guy that was in prison, and he was in prison with a very close friend of mine, and he became Muslim in prison, and he joined when he got out, but he became Muslim in prison. And I was writing letters to him. I won't say his name. And I was writing letters to him saying, when you come out, take it easy. Don't get involved in any groups. Just take it. Just learn your deen, learn to pray, learn this. Come out and join them. I think he spent most of his time in prison. You know what I mean?
Seriously?
Yeah. I mean, what do you expect, bruv? So this was for the non-Muslims that think all Muslims agree with them. I can promise you it wasn't. Now, the non-Muslims might throw the accusation, what do you do about it in your own community? I'll give you this as an example. You've got young men that are religiously, ideologically convinced that what they're doing is right. If you beat them up, they're getting rewarded because it's a struggle for them. And if you leave them alone, Allah's making it easy for them. You're damned if you do that and you're damned if you do that. So what do you do?
The thing with Tommy is, like, when it comes to especially Luton, he tries to say they're like all like that. Every masjid is, sinister and...
Well, he's paid to. Let's be honest, bro. He's come out and said he's an open Zionist. We know that he's paid by them, so he's going to say what he's going to say. I don't know why people are giving so much credibility to what Tommy Robinson said. He's not qualified in anything. He's not.
He's a liar.
Yes, he's not
like a blatant liar.
It doesn't take much. You cannot be a Zionist and a patriot, in my opinion.
Explain that.
Well, look, a patriot is someone that's patriotic to their country. They put Britain first, for example. British jobs, British people, British culture, whatever. Okay, all right. There's a logic to that. It's your country. Your social construct of culture is going to be biased to you. If I went to China or Africa, I would expect the culture of that country to bias them people. So there's but it doesn't mean that you have to hate other cultures and hate other religions. It's just a case that you're prioritizing yours in your country. So I get that.
I get that too.
Yeah, to a point, I get that. Okay, but then we get into the argument: is it my country or yours? Well, I believe it's yours as much as mine. Okay, because there's only if you're going to say you're English, you have to be coming from Cornwall, Wales, or certain parts of Scotland. If you're not coming from there, mate, you're not English. If you look at the bloodline, you're Roman, German, whatever. You know what I mean? You've got bits and pieces, everything in you. So when you're dealing with now, Tommy Robinson is coming in and he's a disingenuous, because if you're going to be an open Zionist, which means that if you read the Talmud and things that the Zionists actually say about non-Jewish people,
mental.
It's crazy. So and they are blatantly paid.
He's not even sincere to his own cause.
Well, look, if someone's paying me to do this, how can I be loyal to my country?
Exactly.
Now people say to me, am I loyal to England? Well, that accusation could be someone watching this video say, well, how are you if you're Muslim? My loyalty first and foremost is to Allah. That's it. Okay. That being said, I still have a responsibility to obey the law of the land, to pay my bills, to not do anything, not steal, not do anything wrong, to obey the law and everything else. I'm not anti-British. I'm just not. My first loyalty is God, before it is to myself, before it is to my family, before it is to my anything. Yeah, it's the first loyalty is God. It doesn't make any difference to me what country I'm in. But if I am in a country, I'm not going to break the law. I'm not going to be a troublemaker. I'm not going to disrespect the police. I'm not going to disrespect the community. I'm going to pick litter up and put it in the bin. Things like this is what I do.
That's what Islam teaches us.
That's what it teaches us, yeah.
Exactly.
Now, Tommy Robinson, he doesn't do that. You cannot be paid by this group that have an agenda in the Middle East and think that you're doing your work here for the British white. He's duping them. He's conning them.
Do you think there's a portion of his followers, you break him up into sections, some that don't care if he's lying because they're just inherently racist, so they don't care, and there's a portion that feel he's sincere and he's telling the truth?
The ones that feel he's sincere will soon find out, because they will have to be sincere themselves. If you're worried about sincerity is a thing for you. Most of them just want to blame you because you look different to them. It's an easy sell. I promise you. My sell is the most sincere because I'm talking about Tawheed and Islam, which is, like the path to hell feels like heaven and the path to heaven feels like hell. Okay, so it's a hard sell for me. But you got to stop drinking, stop eating bacon, get rid of your girlfriend, get a wife, look out, or you can just blame them over there that don't look like you. Your life is crap because of them. Don't worry about the multi-billions of pounds that corporate businesses have taken out of your tax money to fund their businesses. Okay, don't worry about that. It's them over there. See that guy that got off the boat? and by the way, we destroyed their country. That's why they're coming here in the first place. But you see him over there, it's all his fault. It's not our fault. Don't worry about the 28 billion that went missing on track and trace. Don't worry about any of that. It's their fault. It's an easy sell to people. Yeah. People just want to blame someone else, because taking responsibility for your own life is hard work. You know, and as a Muslim, you have to take responsibility for your own life. You have to take responsibility for your own actions. You're accountable to you, and you're accountable to God. And it's not an easy world to be a Muslim man. People, you get wives, they do everything you say. They clearly don't know our women that well, because our women that know the deen, they know what their rights are. So, yeah. So it's not like, they cover up for the sake of God. They don't cover up for us. They cover up because Allah commands it.
You know, with him, like, he's a pathological liar. That's the thing with him. Like, there's no integrity in what he believes. There's no integrity in how he spreads his message. He came out of prison the other day. Guess what he said? And this is a guy who's never been in probably general population of a prison. He said every single prison is run by Islamists in the UK. Like, that's just not even a basic lie. That lie is so humongous and was there. But I'm like, first of all, how would you know that? Because you're on protection in the block all the time. You're never even in general population. You understand? And the vast majority of these Muslims in prison are probably smoking weed and like, it's just such what are you talking about? You understand what I mean?
It doesn't have to be true. You only have to fool most of the people most of the time. You don't have to fool all the people all the time. Just the majority of the time. Okay, the truth has got very little to do with it. It was nothing to do with it, isn't it? So how you make a lie the truth is just tell it enough times.
Enough times, yeah.
And it takes traction, and it's also appealing, because people want to hate. People are like, oh, Kelly, it's your fault. It's these bloody Muslims that it's my fault. Everything's crap in my life. Not because you haven't done anything with your life, because it's their fault.
It's their fault.
But they're coming over and taking our jobs. Well, why didn't you do the job? They're coming over. You know, it's such a stupid argument. It's almost insulting to, but these people, it's very easy for some. And you get some people in working class towns and cities, white people, that they are living in, you know, like
a bubble.
Yeah, well, they're not only living in a bubble. They are living in bad situations. You know, like they've got very high incomes or no income at all. They've got social problems, and if they can blame someone, then it makes them feel like, well, it ain't my fault then, is it? It's got to be someone else's fault. It can't possibly be my fault that I'm in my situation. It's not my responsibility, okay? But we do have another, to balance that now, we do have it on the counter side, is that white people are the easiest people to be racist against. Just because people was unjust to you doesn't mean that you can't be unjust to other people. You're not free from injustice because it was committed upon you.
Yeah, 100%.
Now, you can say anything you want about white people and they literally can't say anything back.
Yeah, of course. And
this is deliberate as well. So the news are doing this deliberately, is that you can make fun of them, you can take the mickey out of them, but they can't say anything back because, you know, they'll be racist. But you can say what you want, and that eventually they're trying to pull it until it snaps. So we are, Allah knows best, probably heading for some type of race/religious war in this country. I hope not.
Dangerous, isn't it?
Not, but you know, when that happens, there's going to be some type of snap. And Tommy Robinson is a useful fool
100%
to the right people.
And you know, you see, like Islam, one thing it teaches is not to generalize anyone, culture, whether it's white people, Asian people. Don't generalize. You understand? One of the most dangerous things you could do is generalize a whole people.
Yeah,
like that whole community is like that. All them Asian people are like that. All them white people are like that. Once you start generalizing, that's a slippery slope.
Well, racism only works when you generalize. Okay. So if I'm going to be racist, so not me be racist, because hopefully I'm not racist, but if someone is racist, say, right, you're racist, you don't like anyone, right, okay, right. But what about Ali, you know, the taxi driver who picks your mum up every week and stops from bingo, stops at the shop, lets her get a pork pie, and then drops her home and makes sure she walks to the door. No, not Ali. Now Ali, he's one of the good ones. Okay, you don't like black people. What about Calvin, the painter and decorator, who always decorates your family house, always knowing him down the pub, always been a great guy? Now Calvin's all right. Now that one's okay. And what about the other one? What about the Arab guy he's all right. What about no, he's all right. It's only when you generalize it can work. It's when you humanize it and you bring it back to it can't work.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we're not all that person. We're not all white, stupid, idiot, working class people on Jeremy Kyle. We can't generalize white people and we can't generalize anyone else. But when you take it individually, like, oh, this guy, you remember the one that picks your mum up and he's always kind. Oh no, that one's okay. But it's the rest of them. We don't mean him, we mean everyone else. You know what I mean? So it only works when you generalize.
So true, because you know, see the way I grew up, in the late 80s, 90s, I grew up. We grew up with an extreme form of racism, like a very kind of NF type of racism, in your face, violent. And if it wasn't for Islam, if it wasn't for my common sense, I could be one of the people that just hate white people. Like they're all the same. You understand? But one thing I will say, like within our community, number one, and number two, like within even my household, my father never ever teached us to hate white people or hate this people. You know, as you kind of get older, you know, common sense kicks in. So remember, we're experiencing this now at 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And it's getting violent as we're getting older. And it's getting very violent, you know. But once you start developing, your brain develops, you understand, no, it's just
it's the nuances there.
It's the people, it's individuals, isn't it? It's not generalized. You understand what I mean? But it's easy to use that hatred now, take it out of context and generalize it, which is what Tommy does.
Yeah, he thrives on ignorance.
Yeah, exactly.
If anyone does any research to what Tommy says, they realise that the stats and the facts don't match up to what comes out of his mouth. But the ignorance is his battleground.
Yeah, exactly.
That's his fertile ground. That's where he gets his recruits from. I don't need to know he said it. Tommy Robinson taught me. Tommy Robinson, I've been working with builders that learn Islam through Tommy Robinson.
That's mental.
Tommy Robinson's read the Quran now, isn't he? I can promise you he ain't, bruv.
I can promise you he ain't.
I can promise you he ain't. I probably don't even know what the word Quran actually means.
I know.
You know what I'm saying? Never mind, read it.
And you know what's really nasty about them as well? They never say the good things that's come from the black community or the Asian community. You know, like the nice things they brought is always the negative, and they keep pumping that onto their followers. Do you understand what I mean? And whatever, you know, like you said, for example, like when you were young, the Asians moved next door to you. Yeah, just that experience. But remember, there's so many people. The majority of his followers have never had that experience. Understand, of living next door to someone who's Muslim and things like that. So he uses that against them. Like, you know, there's a boogeyman. You don't want to be around them and things like that.
Yeah, well, it's the same. We do have negative people in all communities, like in the Muslim community. Yeah. So they will. So you give them ammunition to fire back at you. Yeah. If you're going to be involved in stuff like that, you do in criminal activity and stuff like this. But Tommy Robinson thrives on ignorance. You can only ever agree with Tommy Robinson if you are prepared to ignore facts and prepared to ignore the reality. And just home in on negatives. Okay, you can only ever believe him, and that's it. And for some people, that's all they want. They just want the easy route.
And this is, you know, I heard this from I can't remember who it was, but it was one of the Daeis. He was speaking about this the other day. So important to touch on this as well. You know, if you look at, for example, the white community in the UK, the criminal element of the white community, where does it come from? The middle class, upper class, or is it going to be low income? Where does the criminal element come from? Question.
Well, poverty is normally the main driver of crime.
Low income? We agree
yeah, poverty. Right? Yeah, I mean, so for anyone.
Exactly.
I mean, black, white, brown, or anyone else for that matter.
Exactly. So my point is what the brother said, though. He goes, so if you look at the Pakistanis that came here, you know, the Bangladeshis, the Indians, what did they come as? They came as workers in factories, low income.
Of course.
Thingy.
And they was invited.
But what I mean is, so we see from the white community, who is it? Is a low income. So when you look at the community of the Asians and the blacks and the browns or whatever, it's going to be people on low income are going to fall into that. Their children and their seeds, and that is just logical. No matter where you go in the world, it's logical.
But people idealise and people romanticise. People take the good old days. The good old days in this country when this country was white. And everyone, listen, bruv, if you go back into the Edwardian times, our children were dying of diphtheria. Our children were dying of typhoid. Our children were being sent up chimneys and down coal mines. They were living 10, 20 to a room in the good old days, okay, where it was poor. They would just say, if crime only existed in this country when immigrants got here, then I would blame the immigrants. But we had a thriving crime before anyone got here. In fact, we took it around, we exported it around the world for that matter, okay? So poverty, they idealise the good old days. No, it wasn't the good old days when you lived there. If you ask me, if you go back in time, it wasn't great. It just, you think it was. You never lived in those days. So when you go back to the Edwardian times and the times before that, in the height of the British Empire, there was people starving in this country. English, white kids were starving in this country in the height of the empire. in the height of the British Empire, when we was all around the world getting resources from India and Africa and everywhere else for that matter, okay, we still had people starving here.
Yeah.
Okay, so poverty is the main driver. If you went to Glasgow in the 1980s, which was the knife capital of Europe, it was all Scottish Glaswegian people. It wasn't brown or black people committing crime. Why? What was the common denominator? Poverty.
Yeah.
There's no choice here, mate. We got to survive. We're literally in a jungle situation here. It's the survival of the fittest. Where if you're talking to the youngsters now, when I talk to the younger guys, one of the things I ask when we get talking, I do a little bit of mentoring. I say, what's your plan for this year, 3 years, and then 5 years? So what's your short, medium, and long-term plan? What are you going to do with your life, man? What's going on? What's your plans? Not one of them's got a plan. I don't blame them, but you're just living. You're not planning anything. No, it's just like, well, I don't know. Well, without a plan, what are you going to do? Young men without a plan are like missiles without guidance. They just done boom, where they're going to fall.
Yeah, someone could guide them the wrong way.
Or go anywhere. They could land anywhere, do anything. But when you have a plan, so you structure a plan. Exactly. What do you want to do? Well, I'd like to do that. Okay, well, how do you do that? What are the steps that you need to get to that point? Backtrack it, okay? But once you start giving them a plan, but poor people don't have hope. Like, this is going to be it forever, mate. So if we come out of Europe and we stop all the immigrants coming in, it's going to be fantastic. It's got worse. Do you know what I mean?
You know what? And that's such an important point.
It got worse.
But you know why? Because if you look at the way you grew up, you're obviously one generation before me. Yeah. Like, the level of, poverty, financial kind of environment, the country's got richer.
Yeah.
You understand? Like, my kids are not living the way I lived when I was a kid.
No.
I'm sure your kids don't live the way when you were a kid, So things have got better in financially, and whatever. But when you speak to them, it's like someone's took their jobs and it's a disaster.
Yeah.
But I'm like, but weren't you there in the 80s? Where you couldn't even have a console because there wasn't enough money, and what are you talking about? But it's just, he plays on that.
If Tommy Robinson loved his white working class people, I'm going to tell you now, people might get upset with me now. I love white working class people that are non-Muslim more than he does.
100%.
10,000 times more.
100%, yeah.
The fact that
you want good for them.
I want good for them.
Yeah.
And I don't want them to be any fights. I don't want them to be any trouble. I don't want them to be any race wars or religious wars. I want them to prosper.
Exactly.
I want them to prosper, and I want them ultimately to become Muslim. Because if it's good enough for me, then it's good enough for you.
Yeah.
And it's not a case of it's good enough for me, but it's too good for you. No, it's good enough for one, it's good enough for right. And I think it's good enough for me. I'm going to try and help you. I'll be honest about it. I'm not going to blag you and sugarcoat it for you. I'm going to be straight about it. But I want good for you. Tommy Robinson just wants to stir up hatred, division, and chaos. And eventually, he'll bugger off and live in another country with all his money. And then you won't hear about him. He'll be like Kaiser Zolzak. You don't hear about him anymore. Just a myth. You know what I mean?
So when you're on the building site, for example, and you're speaking to people about Islam because they know you're Muslim, and they've learned Islam from him, how do you counteract that, and how do they take it?
Just ask them. I just say, yeah, but you Muslims who did that, innit? You Muslims got to do this, ain't ya? Do we? Explain why. Yeah. Well, you clearly find out they don't know.
Oh, yeah.
The only common one is the age of Aisha. I think they've learnt that one. He married a kid, didn't he? I don't know, did he? Tell me about it. Well, he did, didn't he? I don't know. You're telling me. You tell me about it. You know what I mean?
Explain.
Yeah, explain to me. If you know it, then tell me about it. Your burden of proof is upon the claimer. So you tell me what happened there then. Well, you lot wanna take over Sharia law in this country. Do we? Okay, well, that's news to me, bro. How are we going to do that?
It's news to me too.
Let's go. Tell me, because I want to know how we're going to do it. And just put it back on them a little bit and put them in a position where they realise they don't actually know what they think they know. Yeah. Okay, and then re-explain it to them. And some of them are quite cool about it. Some of them are quite, all right, that makes sense. And the fact that you have something that you believe in as a man makes you kind of envious to other men. Like men man, at least he believes in something. At least he's got something.
True that.
And we can come back to the suicide point. These people, bless them, don't have anything to believe in. So when you see someone that's strong convictions in what they believe in, they're prepared to live by it. They're prepared to die by it. They're prepared to back it with everything they have. There's a type of respect in that, and this is why Muslim men and women get treated differently, because non-Muslims are watching us. They're not reading the hadith, they're not reading the Quran, but they are watching us.
Do you think there's a jealousy of the Muslim community?
Yeah, and in some viewpoints they should be.
True.
In a good way. They say, right, you guys have got something. Like I was angry with Muslims for a while, when you didn't tell me about Islam. I was like, well, how can you not tell me? How selfish are you lot? You know what I mean? You don't tell me this. So in a sense, there should be a frustration there, and I get it. But you know, we're fighting.
It is a beautiful way of life, though, isn't it?
It's the only way of life for me. I mean, I've lived both. You know, I've lived on both sides of the fence, and I can tell any non-Muslim out there watching, man, the peace that you get from just knowing you're Muslim and just doing the basics like praying, and the purity of the way of life and the purity of it. Knowing that if something goes wrong for me, I just say, mate, alhamdulillah. I'll just have to buy a new one if I can. You know what I mean? Alhamdulillah, I just have to, you know, but there's always that connection with your creator. Yeah, and just having that
It's like a clean
knowledge.
way of life.
Yeah, just having that knowledge and just having that security in that, I don't know how you would live without it. I don't know how I could ever live without it. It's just
Like growing up when I really wasn't, thinking about Islam, smoked a lot of weed. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot, for like 10 years straight. And now, I haven't smoked weed for about 16 years, 17, something like that. Haven't smoked. I can't believe I used to smoke weed. And that's because of Islam, and the way it makes me feel. And so I kind of understand when you're in that dark place, alcohol, weed, whatever they take, they're trying to fill a void.
yeah, in nature. Where there's a void, it has to be filled.
Someone said to me, like, do you get tempted? Like, you smell weed and that? I said, not even 1%.
No.
Just nothing. I don't feel nothing for it.
No.
And it was there. And some people who still smoke weed can't understand that. Like, where there's no temptation. I said, that's only because of Allah and Islam. There's no other reason. I can't really explain it.
Look, if you need alcohol to be happy, there's a problem. If you need anything to be happy, there's a problem. You know what I'm saying? With Islam, I'm not saying life is perfect. Problems happen. You know, people die. You lose jobs. You lose businesses. Marriages break up. All sorts of things happen. But at the end of the day, we know this is a test, and we keep that connection with Allah, and we live to that. And I think I just want everyone to become Muslim. You know what I'm saying? Because I think for what it gives me and it could give them, and I know what it does for people. And I know I don't want to be getting angry with me because I say that. But if I would be insincere if I didn't want that for you, I would be lying. You couldn't trust me if I didn't say that.
That's true.
At least I'm straight about it. At least I'm saying I want what I want to give you what I got. And you might not want it, but at least I'm honest about it.
Do you get a lot of online like hatred comments? And
mate,
stuff
I
like
get death threats.
death threats?
Yeah, man, I get it all. I mean, you'd be surprised. I'd get 10 times worse than you because I'm white.
Yeah, because they think you're a traitor.
Well, to them I am.
Yeah, that's true.
To them I am the traitor. I'm the enemy. You know, I'm the enemy. But look, I want more better for them than anyone like Tommy or any of the likes
You
of
would
him.
help them.
Nigel Farage and me couldn't be more opposite in how we want good for the people.
Yeah.
He wants good for his cronies and his elite businesses and things like this. I want good for the people that grew up on places like I grew up. I want you to have what I've got, in the sense of that peace and that tranquility and that feeling of brotherhood and that feeling of iman, taste that sweetness of iman for 2 seconds and you'll never want to go back.
But even as a white non-Muslim, like, if he wanted a plate of food, you would give him that plate of food. Faraj would probably drive past him. Just that, because you want good for him, innit?
Faraj will probably nick it and tip it in the bin. You know what I mean?
100%, yeah.
That's the difference.
They don't care about them at all.
Not at all.
Just like pawns on the table.
Yeah, they're fodder. They're nothing. And look, and go back even into the wars where poor people always had to fight on the bequest of the rich. Look at the First World War and things like this.
Even now, for like, if someone comes to me and they're begging or they're struggling, I don't look at them. Are they Muslim? Are they black? Are they white? Islam don't teach that. If I could do something, I'll try to do something for you. You
know
understand?
When someone comes to you, ask you for something, it's a blessing. Allah said, I want some good deeds for you. I'm going to give you a chance to feed this person. I'm going to give you a chance to help this person. I'm going to give you a chance because you're not doing enough on your own. So I'm going to send them to you. So if you're a Muslim and you're not asking Allah to send you people, you need to reevaluate. So I'm making du'as every day. Ya Allah, send me people to help. Send me someone to do. Send me something to do. Send me someone to help. Give me help. Let me help someone. Because the deeds I'm doing are maybe not enough. So I'm asking Allah to give me some more.
That's true.
If there's an old lady I need to help across the road, pick her arm and walk her. Give me the old lady to walk across. Give me anything.
Yeah, exactly. To get good deeds.
Yeah, give me anything.
I look at that. A lot of the people who don't know about Islam don't even understand that.
No. And not only do we love it.
Exactly.
We love it. We actually get that feeling like, yeah, man, we done that. That was. Now, non-Muslims on building sites don't get why we give so much charity. I say that Muslims have to. Well, you have to give it. Yeah, we have to give charity. Even you have to give it. No, it's part of our religion. What you have to, I have to. I said, there's nobody, when you ask Muslims for charity, nobody gives more than them. Nobody.
That's a fact, though,
it's a fact. Muslims will give you and give you and give you. And I'm shy asking them. You know, when I do the fundraising for the charity, I'm shy. I'm like, I've got to ask them again. But I will make myself, I will make myself embarrassed. Because I mean, I don't ask people for money. I get really shy to ask people for even the smallest favor. Because I just, it's not in my net. I'm a little bit shy like that. But I'll put myself in a position where I ask the people for charity because it's not for me. And if it makes me a little bit, then I don't care. I'll take that to get the help to the people. But I know the Muslims always give, mashallah. You'd be surprised, bro. Some of them give £2, £1. Some give them 1,000, whatever. But they'll give. You know that person that give £1 probably harder than the person that give £1,000.
True, because he ain't got much.
He's probably got nothing.
Yeah, but he still gives it.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And
I know people like that.
Yeah.
I know people that don't have nothing, but they're still giving.
Yeah. And they still give it. They borrow it to give it, but £1. And you know, it's not. I sometimes you can see on the link who, you know, some people they put anonymous, but you can see the amount that they give. And sometimes I want to cry because I know that person that give £1 or £2 probably like, I just want to give something, man. I just want to give them something.
There's a narration. I don't know if it's a stories from the Salaf or where it's from, but I heard something like, you know, just to not to quote it word by word, but like there's a person he gave, for example, 50,000 dinar, but there was another one who gave 1 dinar. But inshallah, the one who gave 1 dinar done more than the one that gave 50,000. The reason why, the one who gave 1 dinar, he only had 2 dinar, and he gave half
his wealth.
The one who had 50,000 had millions.
Yeah, millions.
You know what I mean? So it's true. So it's kind of true what you're saying.
Yeah.
Some people who ain't got nothing, they're still giving.
They still give it. Yeah.
Another important topic I want to move on to is Gaza.
Okay. Yeah. Are you sure?
Yeah. You know,
Okay.
I've spoken about it a few times on this platform.
All right.
Like I said, you know, they've got us so in a position where they can't even, you know, as a you're what they call what the media will call the pure Englishman.
Yeah, they don't like that, but it's true.
But it's true. You're pure Englishman, as they say. What's the sentiment of the civilians in this country to what's going on in Gaza and the government's complicity in it?
It's, you know what, to be honest, most people that live, let's say most white non-Muslims that live, they're not evil. They're not even racist. They're just peed off. You know, just like, man, I've had enough of this. You know what I mean? Like, the bloody bills and everything. I'm just running around in a hamster wheel to continue my life. Like, it's boring. It's crap. You know, like. But when it comes to Gaza, it's undeniable now what's going on there. I don't care what name you label it, suggested genocide, the result is the same, mate.
Same, yeah.
I don't care what label you want to give it. And it's undeniable. It's undeniable what they're doing there. They're ethnically cleansing that place and they want to obliterate it and move them out. That's what they're doing.
The vibe I'm getting from the civilians, you know, English civilians, is that they're getting kind of sick of their government's, you know,
complicitness in this.
Yeah, in this.
Lies.
That's the vibe I'm starting to get. Yeah,
Yes.
They're having enough. Like it's going too far now.
Well, do you think that they don't? That I'm not talking about any other my community being white working class. Don't love their kids. Do you think that they want to see kids blowing up? Do you think they want to see people stop? No, they don't.
Non-stop.
No, it doesn't matter about religion now. For them, they're watching this. They can see this. And they can only see what's coming out on cameras, like mobile phones and bits like that. If the news reporters, the independent journalist was in there, this would have been done time ago, mate.
The Israelis won't let them in.
They won't let them in. And then they shut you down by saying everything's any type of criticism about what's going on is anti-Semitic. So to say that children, you should hold back aid from starving children is anti-Semitic makes people hate you. It makes people hate you. And this is they couldn't have done this propaganda thing any worse from Israel's viewpoint. But the arrogance that they have, the sheer arrogance that they think they can just do whatever they want to do. And you know what? That's it. You lot don't matter anyway. If people knew what they actually believed, like the Talmud and things like this, not the Torah, but the Talmud, they actually knew that. They'd be like, you what? We're giving them money and they think that we're donkeys.
But isn't it according to their book, the Zionists, they're the ones that killed Jesus?
They didn't believe in him anyway.
But that's why they killed him, isn't it? Or
so some of them don't even believe he ever existed in the first place.
Oh, they don't believe he existed? Oh, wow.
But forget that. Maybe there's non-Muslims that believe it didn't exist. But if I said, but you know, in their books, according to their teachings and according to people in their own government cabinet, the things that they're saying about you, your money is going to help them, and it's complicit in the devastation of civilians. To say this is a war is like saying there's a 3-year-old child over there with his hands tied behind his back and you beat that child up is a fight. It's not a fight. It's not a war. It can't be a war unless there's an army the other side. Ukraine and Russia is a war because they have armies and they have weapons and they have structure. This is a civilian. Imagine the IRA. We had trouble with the IRA in the 1960s and 70s, yeah? So maybe 5 IRA men, for example, rushed into a tower block of people. Would you think that they would bomb the whole tower block to get 5 IRA and to kill everyone because they were hiding there?
No.
Why? Because it's a war crime. So the excuse that we're just going after Hamas is getting a bit old.
They're ridiculous.
It's getting a bit worn out, mate, to be quite honest. And the non-Muslims are looking at this, regardless of whether they hate Islam, regardless of whether they hate immigrants, they're looking at that thinking that's unacceptable, mate. That we can't deny that. So, but it's unfortunate that the people of Gaza have to pay the price for it. They're paying the ultimate price for that, for people to wake up.
And look at now, Netanyahu has he been charged by the Hague, right?
Yeah, but I mean, it won't make no difference. No.
Because legally they have to arrest him if he comes to the UK.
Yeah, but
that's legally.
He ain't coming here. Let's be honest. What's he going to come? When's he ever been here?
You're in America, but they don't recognise it.
They don't recognise it. All it really takes is for America to turn around and go, we're not
That's all it is.
We're not on with you anymore. That's it. We're finished. Donald Trump's a funny fella. You know, he's a bit unpredictable.
I hope he does it, but
well, he's made sort of statements to the effect of like he might be leaning down that road. But
I had some hope in him before he was elected. I thought, he might do something. But since he made that video of turning Gaza into a refuge,
but then he's made one since then saying that he doesn't have anything to do with. He's going to recognise Gaza as a state. You don't know.
He just talks a lot of
One day
he's there, 1 minute he's there.
You don't know. You don't know. I mean, ultimate justice will come from Allah.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's the real justice and the real judge in this situation. But as the way that I feel speaking to non-Muslims about the situation in Gaza, which was the question, is that it's becoming undeniable now. It's too much now.
Too much, isn't it?
It's just beyond hatred now, whether they like you as a Muslim or not. This is like they're looking at this, and when you got the likes of Piers Morgan doing a flip, you know it's really flipping.
You know who? Even if you look at you remember Nick Griffin?
Yes.
So and what was that girl's name? Jada.
Yeah, the one from Britain First.
I can't remember her name. Jada, I think her name
is.
Yeah,
but no, the long dark hair.
Yeah, that's the one. Even if you see what they're saying.
Yeah.
Because they got their views on what they have, but even they're saying, this is going too far now.
Did you see what they said about how they were confronted, how they lost their positions they were confronted because they wouldn't toe the line of just being anti-Muslim?
Yeah, they said. So what Nick Griffin said I think he was on 5 Pillars when he said it. He said what they wanted was that we don't talk about the banking system, and we don't talk about the Zionists, and they wanted us to send our youth into like Muslim areas. Like, for example, I'll give you an example. What they mean by that is like, you could go and protest in the Birmingham city centre because everyone goes to the city centre. No one lives there.
They'll corner it off.
No one really lives there. There's shops, but he said they wanted us to send the youth into Muslim like areas like Bury Park, Small Heath, to create a race war. And he said, I ain't doing that. Because maybe he has some ikhlas in his beliefs. He has some sincerity in what he believes. Just know what I mean? And that's why he said no. But even I was watching their stuff, what they're saying about Gaza, totally against it.
You don't have to be. You just have. You just have to be human to be against it. You don't have to be Muslim. You just have to be human, man. I mean, any human being looking at that, like they love their kids too. Just to be honest, they're all human beings at the end of the day. But the way that they said it about the Zionists, wanting to completely and utterly channel their, attentions of the right wing into anti-Muslim and don't worry about anything else.
It's mental.
Mate, come and have a look at that. If I was in the right wing, right, which I'm clearly not, but if I was, I want to look at the picture and say, why are we going there all the time? What about the banking? And what about the interest rates? What about the money that's been spent here? What about what's happening in my community? What about all the funding that's been taken out of the national health service? Why are we blaming? Why is it all about this? And who benefits from that?
You know what I find so sad about this whole situation about the boats? I always say, I said, like, what type of person would risk his life on these dinghies? That's a desperation move. The majority, not all the time, but a lot of the times that's a desperation, And what you said earlier, if you look back somewhere, you've went and done something to their country. You destroyed their economy, and now they're coming to Europe.
People don't leave a happy life.
Nobody does, yeah.
They don't. Now, they did do a deal with Albania, but they could send them back. And, it's every country has a right to defend its borders.
Of course,
you can't just have people rocking up in
Yeah,
boats,
100%.
not knowing who they are.
I agree with that, yeah.
There has to be some controls. You couldn't do it anywhere else. You couldn't rock up in Saudi Arabia and just say, I'm here,
Yeah, of course.
without there being questions and a procedure that you have to
Definitely,
follow. However, the demonization of them,
Exactly, yeah.
it's like instantly they're men of fighting age.
Dodgy.
There's, there's the demonization and the sort of separation that they want to create immediately straight away. If they didn't want them boats coming in, they could stop them. I'm sure. You got 20 miles of water.
Of course, yeah.
They could stop it if they really wanted to. I'm sure they could. You know what I mean?
They use that to fuel whatever they want to fuel.
Of course it is. Like I said, they're not going to go and live with them, are they?
And the reality is, some of these people are coming from places like Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, somewhere where the government here has had a hand in the mess in that country. So where do you want them to go? You understand? So I was saying this the other day. So could you imagine an Iraqi? Iraq is messed up right now. It's difficult to live there. He said, "Nah, I want to go UK." Can you blame him? For wanting to come over here. Do you understand what I mean? And that's like I said, they dehumanize them, generalize them, and dehumanize them.
But we see what they do is they say, "How come they're just the men coming? Why aren't they bringing the women and children?"
Because the way, and this is for the people who are so dumb they don't understand the way it works. Because how it works, the guy comes over here and he makes money. So when our fathers were invited, our mums never came, the women never came at first in the 50s and the 60s. So they were invited here to work in the factories, the mills. So the men came, they earn money, then they invite the wives over and then the kids and whatnot. Exactly the same process with the refugees. The vast majority of refugees are coming for a better life.
Of course they are.
Definitely.
But that means that they have to drag them across a continent. That's going to be a dangerous journey. Could involve them getting mugged, or could involve them getting killed, or whatever. Sleeping rough, almost certainly. And then on a boat, on a treacherous sea journey. Would you take your wife and kids on that?
Never.
No. You'd leave them where you could and say, let me go there, let me
make some money,
plot up a little bit, and then we'll try and get you over. I mean, that's the logical thing. That's the reason they're not bringing their families with them, because who can bring them across all that distance and continent and sleep rough and do whatever they got, and then it's too dangerous. And people, if Syria, they weren't coming here before. If you look at all the stable Muslim countries, they're not coming here. They're not coming here like that anyway.
Exactly.
So no one's coming here from and they voted out of Europe to think that that's how stupid some people are. Vote out of Europe to stop the immigrants. No, you're stopping the Europeans from coming here. You're not stopping the people that are coming from desperation, because they don't give a crap.
They're still going to come.
They're still going to come.
And you know what's mental? You see, like some of these guys that come over on these boats and asylum seekers. When it comes to working, as in jobs, these guys will work 16 hours a day.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to make a pound. It's there, and they will work and like, the way they've been demonized, military-age men and whatever. And I'm like, some of these guys are doing the jobs that I would never do and you would never do. Like some of the jobs I see them doing, I was like, yo. Man.
Yeah, but they're getting all our houses. They're getting all our, they're taking all the social housing. They're taking up all the places in the doctors and in the schools and things like this. What people don't understand is we've stopped building social housing back in the Thatcher's day, when she sold all the council houses off and didn't build new ones. So there's a disparity in the market between supply and demand when it comes to private and social housing. What we need to do is build more social housing. They're not coming over here and just getting the houses.
It's not that simple.
No, but why aren't we building more houses?
It's give and take, and it's two sides of a story.
And like I said, there's nothing wrong with having an immigration policy where you look after your borders, because every country should look after its borders.
I even believe there's a housing crisis, and I'm sure that adds weight and problems to it.
So why don't we build some houses then? And why don't we? It makes sense for the government to build houses and rent them to the people, and
make money.
Keep the money for the next 100 years.
Exactly,
it keeps it in the pot. But we don't. We sell the land to private developers,
business,
and they build houses and sell them to people that can afford them. But that's not everybody. So people don't look past that. It's just you ain't got a house because of him. It's a nice, easy connection for you to blame.
But I don't understand. How did he get it and you can't get it? How? How does that work?
Yeah.
It's a cop-out, isn't it?
Well, it is, but that's what, again, it thrives on your ignorance. And it thrives on your ability it thrives on the easy way out, to blame someone. Now, I sit with a lot of Muslims that have considerably more money than me financially. Alhamdulillah. I mean, maybe you. I done a podcast a week or two ago with a brother who's quite a flourishing business, mashallah, Allah Mubarak. I don't care. He done well for himself. Good fair play to the brother.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? What Allah writ for you is good for you, brother. What Allah writ for me is good for me.
You just got to try. That's it.
I just make an effort, mate. I only need enough money to keep going.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and do what I want to do.
But what I'm saying,
I don't blame them for
if
that.
you don't make an effort, nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
Just
Well, that's right. Yeah, you got to make an effort. You got to do what you got to do. I mean, but I don't hold anyone. I don't hold a grudge against anyone that's different to me. The guy that lives next door to me, Khalid, where I live, he's big into computers. He got into what do they call it? What IT? Way before IT was
a big thing.
Big thing. Mashallah, he's got a nice living. He's retired. I think he's retired anyway. He come with the same state I went from. Went to the same school I went. Fair play to the brother. All of them that done well. It's not.
You got to try.
He done what he done.
Yeah. If you look at some of these guys that saying they're taking our jobs, he's on the dole.
Yeah, he's taking our jobs. That's why you ain't working, mate. The fact that you haven't looked for a job in 2 years is nothing to do with it. No, it's the fact that he come over and got one straight away with an agency.
Yeah,
that's the problem, is it?
True,
yeah. So they just want to hate. I mean, I don't hate anyone for what they got, man. As long as they earn it straight, legally.
The last thing I want to move on to, from Luton as well, Andrew Tate.
Yeah.
He's turned Muslim.
Yeah.
What impact has he had on the community?
The Muslim community.
Yeah, you know, not just a Muslim, he's a white revert.
He's not. Well, his dad is mixed race.
To me, he's white. You know?
He looks white. Okay, fine. Yeah.
What impact has that had?
Again, this is like social media is a double-edged sword. It can do a lot of good because we can find out what's going on in other countries that they can't hide it. It can give dawah. It can inform you. It can give you a balance to what would be coming on the real like the mainstream news. And then you get the so-called social media influencers that just talk nonsense a lot of the time. Yeah. So it comes with the territory, man. As for we used to train in the same gym.
You've seen him physically?
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's not that famous, bruv, you know what I mean? If he walked in here now, he wouldn't get treated any differently to anyone else, I promise you. Yeah. His coach is my coach, Amir Sashkalik, from Storm Gym.
He's the Bosnian guy?
Bosnian guy, okay? I like Amir. I got time and respect for Amir, okay? He was my coach at the same time he was Andrew Tate's coach, but we done two different disciplines. I was doing MMA and Budokai, and he was doing kickboxing. So we never, even though we were in the gym together, we never trained together. Okay. Now, when Andrew Tate become Muslim, not that he's going to listen to me, but I said it's great that he's become Muslim, but no one brings anything good to Islam. Islam only ever brings anything good to you.
100%.
So it's not a victory that he become Muslim for Islam. It's a victory for him that he become Muslim. So let's get our perspectives right on how, he's a famous guy and now, no, bruv.
That don't mean nothing.
If Allah wanted the world to become Muslim in a microsecond, that would be done. Okay? I wanted him then I knew he wouldn't, but go and live in a Muslim country like Dubai, take your money, go and build your iman, build your knowledge, get married, have a family, and chill out, mate. We don't need you on social media because the likelihood is you're going to make sins for yourself.
Yeah. That's exactly what he's doing.
Yeah. That's the likelihood is you're going to make sins. And
you sent a message to him or indirectly?
Me?
Through the coach, or you say?
No, because the coach is very protective over him.
Okay.
Because the coach still goes out there and they do bits of work together. So I don't think he's going to let anyone near him.
Okay.
Although me and Amir is in my phone, we are on talking terms, but I won't put him in that position. And there is people better than me in lots of ways, especially with knowledge, that should be advising Andrew Tate, not me.
I think they've tried.
Yeah, students of knowledge or scholars and things like this. So the emphasis is on Andrew Tate to correct his affairs. And as Muslims, I will advise people not to listen to him, and because it will only exacerbate his sins. Yeah, and I don't want that for him. And I also don't want people to be confused. Doesn't look like he's taking things too seriously. And it looks like he's aligning himself with characters that are clearly against Islam. Now, there's only so much of that we can sort of turn a blind eye and a deaf ear to. But that being said, I'll let the people that are close to him advise him, if there are any. Hopefully there are. And hopefully may Allah guide him and take him off social media and you go and live a peaceful life with all your money, and maybe if you get the iman, you can have 4 wives and 20 kids, 50 kids, mashallah, whatever, and just chill. He's not an ambassador for Islam. Neither am I. But he's...
Yeah, of course. I feel that he's regressed. I feel at the first time Muslim, there were some very positive signs. And so when he come out of prison, I kind of thought, okay, this might be, that push you need because just how it happened. He turned Muslim, they put him in prison. So I thought this might be that push. He needs. He's got money, so he's kind of okay with that. It's just a regression I seen. I've never seen a regression like that before.
Social media is a cruel mistress, and it can get the better of anyone.
True.
We all want. When we make a video, we want attention, but we want the right attention.
Yeah.
Sometimes attention is attention, though. I always say. I said it to some friends that I have in Luton when I first started doing social media, which was an accident, by the way. I didn't get into it deliberately. It wasn't a plan. If you go out looking for attention, eventually you'll end up running down the street naked. Because that's all you got left at the end of the day. People stop, they become immune to what you're saying, and they'll be like, oh God, it's him again. So you have to up the ante every time. And
What, you're right, man.
Yeah. So if your intention isn't for the right reasons, and eventually you're just going to be more and more and more until you get to a point where you just do really ridiculous things. I've seen a video of a brother that I won't mention his name running down the streets with his underpants on around the tourist areas of...
Trying to get views.
Yeah. He's a famous TikToker or whatever. I don't want to go into it, and that literally is the physical embodiment of what I was saying.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So with Andrew Tate, I really wanted him to come off social media, but I didn't think that he would, and he hasn't. And the fact that he's on social media, the fact that you're famous doesn't make you an authority on anything. At all. Fame isn't a qualification. Okay, it's just an unnecessary attention. I don't see him being able to advise me, and I don't give the same advice he gives.
You know what? One thing I've noticed about him, he lies a lot. Like, I just don't understand why. I don't know, some insecurities, what it is. I don't think, because he's not been to the UK for years now. He's wanted now. He can't come back.
Well, he keeps saying he comes from my area.
Yeah, he says it from Marsham, yeah.
I never knew him.
But you never seen him in Marsham?
I see him at the gym, in the Storm Gym, but I never see him on the ends. I never see him on my estate.
I don't think...
But he's different. He's a bit younger than me.
Yeah, I don't think he was out on the ends like that, I don't think. But what I'm saying is, you see with him, I don't think, because he's not been back to the UK for so long, and he's got a warrant out for his arrest, so if he lands it, arresting him straight away. It was issued on Friday, I think. He doesn't understand the harm he's caused to the Muslim community.
Do you know what, Akhi? All of us say too much. In this podcast, we've all said too much.
Yeah.
In every conversation we have, we say too much. And we could be digging holes and problems for ourselves with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, okay? All of us do, okay? But we try and keep a kind of limit on what we're saying, and we try and measure what we say. We try and weigh the good when we say it. We try and do it in the moment, but we try and do it. But some of these guys, there's no filter. There's just... And they don't realise, I don't talk too much about the deen in depth, because 100%. It's not I'm not a scholar.
It's not your forte.
I'm not a student. I'm not a talib ilm. I'm not a student of knowledge. I'm not anything. I'm just a white Muslim that's been a Muslim for 28 years, picked a few things up, and has hopefully some common sense, okay, and has a desire to try and help other people. But I'm not a qualification. I'm not qualified. The things that I say should be known by everyone.
Of course, especially when the things you're saying are affecting other people. When the riots were going on last year, the whole thing happened, I didn't make a video about it. So people are messaging me, why are you not making a video about it? Why are you not talking about it? I'm saying, look, you come from a certain world, I come from a certain world. People, I've got a small platform, people listen to me. You understand? I'm angry at that time. I'm emotional because...
That's the wrong time. My
community's getting affected. You understand? I knew at that time there's people on the streets with guns and knives. Ready.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it for what it is.
Yeah. You could feel it. You knew it.
I knew it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And that's the last thing we want to be involved in.
I could say the wrong thing. Yeah. It could put a battery in some kid's back because I'm emotional.
Yeah.
And he goes, does something mad just to somebody. Just know what I mean? Yeah. So I said, listen, I'm not addressing this. I'm in my own emotions.
Yeah.
Just know what I mean? So I'm not saying something out of anger and emotions and somebody goes to something stupid. So I said, look, I'm not saying nothing online about this. Because it was personal to me. Yeah. My community is under attack. You know what I mean? And whatever, Muslim women under attack. Old men with beards under attack. Did you see that they caught some black guy in Manchester, not even a Muslim, just beat him up. You know what I mean? So that's that's the emotions are all over the place. So I said, no, I can't.
So you have to fight that.
I can't speak on this.
Yeah. It's the same reason that I don't speak on Gaza on my platform. Although I do the links and everything else, people say, you don't speak on Gaza. But listen, if you've got something, go in the link, give them something. If you want to help Gaza, give them something. I can't do justice to the topic that I want to say. If we was off camera now, I'd say even more. Out of respect for your platform, I've only said what was known.
Of course. Yeah.
Okay? I wouldn't say just outrageous things on your platform or not on mine. But I try not to talk, because if I can't talk about it the way I want to, then it's better for me to say nothing. They will shut my account down, and then I won't be able to raise any money.
100%.
For it.
And it's not just that. It's like when you look at extremism, for example,
Yeah.
whether it's the far right or whether it's some Muslim extremists, whatever, they say things because they want people to react and
Yeah.
go do something. You understand?
Yeah.
Because they get some weird, twisted kick out of that. So when, for example, Tommy or someone, he knows someone might react and go attack
Yeah.
a Muslim woman or some old guy.
Yeah.
When the extremist says something online, he knows someone might go do something stupid because deep down he wants that. He wants that reaction because they thrive off that, you know, because they're cowards, ultimately. You understand what I mean? So they're trying to, you know, provoke people, you know, and that's why online you have to be careful what you say. I don't care about what anyone says, but I don't want someone doing something based upon something I said.
Yeah, you don't want to provoke the situation, make it worse. People get hurt and whatever like that. Yeah.
And what Tate was doing in them riots was it was borderline insanity what he was doing.
Do you know the thing, Akhi? This is when you taste Iman a little bit, it humbles you. A Muslim man should be humble at the right times.
100%. Yeah.
Okay, and sometimes you just have to bite your tongue, and then this isn't the right time. You like you said, you was emotional, and when you're emotional, you don't talk. You have to keep your mouth shut because you're going to say something. Okay, so if you argue,
I want you to say a lot. You wasn't right.
But you know, you argue with your missus. And I'm angry with you now, darling. Exactly. So when I'm not angry, we'll come back to this conversation. But right now, I'm just gonna go out, go to the gym, go to the masjid, do something. I'm not going to engage you right now because I'm too angry. You know, the common sense thing to do is not do it when you're angry. Okay, but sometimes when you have Iman, you have we're accountable as Muslims. We are accountable for the things that we say. If I say anything that misguides or causes harm or hurts feelings or causes a fitna, that's on me.
Definitely.
That's on me now. That's why I don't do it. But I don't know whether Andrew Tate and that have that same outlook on as I would have, or you would have, and other brothers would have.
Remember, a lot of the stuff, controversy makes them money because of their
that's what I'm saying.
Universities or whatever they do online.
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
I mean, I think we should do something better than that. You know, like if we're going to help Muslim brothers, and we should do it better than that.
Definitely.
You know what I'm saying? We've got to be able to do it better than that. You know,
100%. You know, another thing, you know, like we leave it with this as well. Very important subject, and I don't like it when I see it. Is like, you know, Muslims are getting, you know, Allah's first. Allah comes first, you know.
Yeah.
If you make money, that's in your qadr. You got to try. But it's like the focus now, you know, you got to earn money, you got to do this, of course you got to do that, you know. But they're belittling now the person who's working 9 to 5. You know, you can't belittle.
Like you're not on your hustle.
Like,
you know what you're doing.
What if everyone's an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
Who's going to do the job?
I can't take advice from people that have never went to do a job for years that they hated just to put food on the table for their family.
And I respect.
And that's most people.
My father did that.
Yeah, mine too. That's most of us. Most of us have done. I worked on building sites my whole life.
One of the hardest things to do.
Do you think I like it? No, I don't do it because I like it. I do it because I have to. That's the reason I like it. That's the reason I do it, not because I like it. But when they talk down to these people,
that's nasty.
Mate, that's what annoys me. Now I do step in and say, mate, who are you?
I hate that, man.
Who are you to criticise a man that's doing a job to feed his family? Not everyone has got that to do that.
Exactly.
So let that man, he's more righteous than you.
But remember, they're only doing that because they want that person to join their course.
Yeah.
You understand what I mean?
I mean, it's another disingenuous thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's not sincere to do that. I mean, look, I say to people, look, you've got a bit of land out. It's a nice bit of land.
Yeah.
And we're going to build you a nice house. It's going to have your gym in it. It's going to have your whatever library in it. It's going to be brilliant. This house is going to be wicked, all right? But until then, you're going to live in this house. It's a small, moderate house until this house is being built.
Already,
yeah? Do you think that you're going to spend all your time, all your money, all your effort decorating this house here that you're going to live in for a year or less? Okay? Are you going to put all your effort into this house? All your time, money, and everything, decorate it, redecorate it, do it. No, you would put your time and your effort into this house. The same with this dunya. Why are we putting so much effort into this dunya?
Exactly.
And we're not going to be here for very, very long. When the real home, the real abode is going to be for eternity, and we're just decorating this one, where everything's going into this dunya and nothing's going into this one. Nobody would do it in the world, but they wouldn't. This rented house for a year, you'd make it clean and comfortable. You'd make it tidy. You'd make it nice. But you would be working on your big house, wouldn't you? Well, why are we making this dunya everything? When they go into these, what do you call it? These universities, hustlers, I don't know what they're called, all right? It's all about the dunya. All about the dunya. Okay, fine. We need money, akhi. We need to provide for the family. Your kids need to go to school. Families need things, etc. Nobody wants to be struggling.
100%.
But we have to balance that with the
deen.
deen.
100%.
And this is where it's missing.
100%. And now these Muslim influencers are jumping on it,
Yeah.
and like trying to put people down who work 9 to 5. Look at you working 9. I'm like,
You're still working a 9
talking
to
about?
5, bruv. Yeah, these, if I come across these brothers,
Yeah, I don't respect that.
no, I'll stick it on them.
Because it's not sincere.
No, it's not. And it's angry because there's that man there that's doing a 9 to 5 is doing it for his family.
I respect that, man.
I've done it. I've done it all of my life. I wouldn't take advice of anyone that hadn't had the bailiffs come around their house at least once. Okay?
They've been through it.
Because they've been through it. I wouldn't take advice of anyone that hasn't hit rock bottom and seen depression in their life at least once.
Once, yeah.
Okay? I'm not saying that you have to live a really bad, but I want you to know what it feels like to be giving me advice. You know? Not to say that everyone can experience everything, but these guys look, you got moderately successful at what you've done. Now you want to spend a living telling people how to do what they should be. No, if you were so good at it, you'd keep doing it.
You know, Khabib said something very important. You know, the UFC Khabib. He said that, you know, when people get successful and wealthy, make money, you know, they always say, look at me, you know, I'm so motivated and whatever, and I work so hard. He said, what about the people that have worked so hard but never made nothing?
Yeah.
He said, because it's the qadr Allah.
Yes.
If Allah wills, it's going to happen. If He doesn't will, you can work as hard as you like. You know, it's there.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen.
And these
for you.
guys are just rubbing it in your face.
Exactly, yeah.
I look at my sports car. Look at me now living in this Dubai or wherever people
Look
go.
at you know.
Not that there's anything wrong with living there. I'd like to live there myself one day.
Putting the working man down.
Yeah, you're putting the normal guy down, and then you're putting yourself up here. No, say Alhamdulillah, because Allah can take it quicker than He give it.
100%.
Okay,
Yeah.
and respect the people that are doing a 9 to 5 or whatever they're doing, and 2 or 3 jobs and this and that. You know, it really irritates me, and this is where I don't want to. This is where I probably get a little bit animated as well, but a bit angry. But that happens way too much.
And it's starting to happen
Yeah.
in the Muslim circles more and more.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's come from that world.
Yeah.
It's now infiltrated the Muslim
Mate,
influence.
you know what? You're 30 years old, mate. You ain't done anything yet. I got kids your age. I've made it with myself. Mate, you ain't done nothing at 30.
You don't know what trials
You're a
are
little
coming for
baby
you.
at 30 years old, mate. You ain't done nothing. Don't tell me anything at 30 years old about give me life advice. You're giving life advice for you ain't started yet.
But you got pay, you know what it is, but it's not even that. Like I said, a lot of these guys who preach that stuff, you know, they target the 9 to 5 worker. They have a course for you to buy.
Oh, of course they do, yeah.
Just know what I mean? They want you to basically leave your 9 to 5 job
Yeah.
and go buy your course.
Yeah.
And then end up broken before you started.
Yeah.
You just know what
And
I
again,
mean?
they build up expectations
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
that are just unrealistic.
Unrealistic, yeah.
Unrealistic.
And they will lie.
How to
sell
get
that.
married? Yeah, bruv, you're 6'4", good-looking guy. Of course you can get married. This guy's 5'3". You know what I mean? You know, it's different, brother. You know, for me that annoys me. And the Muslims are that's where we're using social media negatively as Muslims,
yeah.
as Muslims at least.
Insincerely,
Insincerely. Some of them are doing wicked dawah, brilliant dawah,
Dawah, yeah.
and good information. And mashallah, may Allah increase the brothers doing that. Some of them are just getting a little bit in front of themselves.
So,
Yeah, I don't like that. And if I ever,
No,
and
I agree with you, yeah.
I don't meet them. I don't meet them at all. To be quite honest with you, I'm one of the social media revert guys that doesn't hang around with a crowd.
You do your own thing.
I just do my own thing, bro. I don't know,
I get invited to places and I just don't go.
but I keep myself to myself. You know,
I was asked by Sheikh Uthman to do a talk with him in Leicester. I was like, look, it's not
I don't know
my
who he
thing.
is. Which one is
Yeah,
that?
Sheikh Uthman, the American.
Okay, sorry, yeah,
won
yeah.
the band recently. From
Yeah,
the
yeah,
UK.
yeah, yeah.
He asked me to do a talk with him in Leicester. I said, look, it's not my thing, man. You know, that's not my circle. I don't do that, you know.
Yeah.
Very nice brother, mashallah. It's been an excellent podcast.
Okay, yeah, we're done.
Have you got anything else you want to add?
No,
Anything you
brother,
want to
yeah,
touch on? Any shout outs? Your channels? Let them know where to find you, man.
Yeah, well, my channel is on TikTok and on TikTok and on Instagram. It's Al Rijal, and on YouTube it's Dowie, that Muslim fella.
Tell them what Al Rajal means, man.
The men.
He never even knew.
The men.
I was telling him earlier, I was like, you know what that means? He's like, no.
Yeah, means the men.
No, I don't know
Yeah,
that, yeah.
I didn't want to name it after me.
Yeah.
The YouTube channel is named after me, but that was by accident. You know, I didn't even think about it when I started the channel because I was giving down on building sites and without people knowing. So I'd have the phone here, and they wouldn't know I'm talking to them, and I just done the dawah that way, done the channel that way, started it that way.
All his links will be in the bio.
Yeah.
Check it out, and thank you for watching, guys. Thank you for
But that-
coming. Oh, you want some shilajit?
Shilajit.
You want some?
I
Take
do
it.
take that.
Yeah, take it, man. Take it. Jazakallah
No, I've
for
got some.
coming. You got some already?
Yeah.
Jazakallah for coming. Thank you for watching, guys. I'll be back soon. Peace. Before I continue today's podcast, guys, I want you guys to check out this company, Altitude. These guys do premium grade shilajit, very high quality. And one very important thing I noticed with this company is The shilajit is tested in the UK in a lab. So it's UK lab tested. They have a barcode on the back, which is very important to check and scan all the details and make sure everything's genuine. The packaging is high quality. I take the shilajit myself, and one little touch I really like that I haven't seen before, I like this. This is a metal kind of gold color spoon. It really looks really nice. Looks really nice quality to take your shilajit with every day. Guys, they're giving a 10% discount if you type in the code KICKUP. Capital letters, KICKUP on their website. Go check it out. All the links and the description box below. Check it out.